Yeah, it's going to take a while.
Okay. We ready?
Yes, Eileen.
Okay. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place on Monday, December 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Due to mandatory quarantines imposed by Governor Murphy, Millburn Town Hall is closed to the public for the purpose of board meetings. As such, this meeting is being held in a Zoom webinar format. Supplemental notice of the transformation of this meeting to a virtual format was posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, taped to the front doors of Town Hall, posted on the township website, forwarded to the clerk, and forwarded to the Item and Star Ledger, the officially designated newspapers of Millburn Township.
Thank you. Okay.
Let me just take the
Jessica's
roll.
here now.
I want the record to be clear that Jessica is here.
Okay, let me just bring her over.
Came in,
I brought her over.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect.
great. Came in when
Sorry, it was taking
Notices
forever
were
to
being
connect. It was
read.
just spinning.
Mary McNett,
Here.
Craig Klettner,
Here.
Jody Sharma,
Here.
Joy Siegel,
Here.
Steve Toger,
Here.
Wolfgang Tutores,
Here.
Kevin Wenzel,
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Jessica Glatt,
Here.
Chairman Joseph Steinberg.
here. Thank you. I'd like to address for a minute a couple of matters before we actually begin the guts of the meeting. I'm looking at the agenda and I want to say that first of all, that the approval of the minutes of September 21 will not occur tonight. Eileen had technical problems.
Now, I forwarded the minutes and the only thing that was added was maybe 2 paragraphs at the end. Everything else was.
She fixed it.
I fixed
Okay,
it.
yeah, I understand, but so I know that some of the members of the board were working today and haven't had an opportunity to look at the final draft of the minutes. So we'll deal with the September 21 minutes at the next meeting.
Okay.
The second thing that I want to mention to board members and to those of you who have been on the board for quite a while, this will not come as news to you, but I did want to point out that we are dealing in every single case that we have with what is known as the negative criteria. And I want to read that to you once more so that we all have it in the forefront of our minds on every one of these cases. No variance or other relief may be granted, including a variance or other relief involving an inherently beneficial use without a showing. Now here's the key language. That such variance or other relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. Now, there are 2 things to be said about that. The first is that the word substantial appears on both of the 2 legs of the negative criteria. So that, and this is me talking now, I believe that every time the board grants a variance, there is some impairment of the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance, because we're doing something that the zoning ordinance by its very terms does not permit when we grant a variance. The second thing is that the word substantial is very important and appears on both legs of the negative criteria, so that you can find in your mind that a variance or other relief that you are voting for or to grant does involve a detriment to, say, the public good. Now, the courts have said that a detriment to the public good, meaning the words public good mean the immediate neighborhood. Okay? So even though you may think that your vote is impairing is a detriment to the neighborhood, the immediate neighborhood, or to the intended purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance, bear in mind that the word substantial has to be taken into account. That is to say that the negative criteria can be met if there is some impairment on either leg of the negative criteria, but it cannot be a substantial impairment. Okay, that was the third thing that I want to tackle before we begin the regular agenda of the meeting is the fact that you people did not receive, nor did I, from Eileen, the file on Bing Shen that appears at the next to last matter on your agenda for tonight. And the reason for that is that Eileen has reached out to the applicant and to their experts and has not received an answer. In addition, they have not filed with our secretary as required by law the proof of publication. So the matter cannot and will not be heard tonight. It has been suggested by Eileen, by Gail Fraser, our attorney, that a motion be made and carried tonight to dismiss the matter without prejudice, meaning in non-lawyer terms, meaning it can be dismissed, but it can be refiled at any time without any prejudice to the applicant. And I think that's a great idea because we can't, Eileen cannot get in touch with these people or their representatives, and therefore we cannot even at this time determine when the matter can be heard. We know that we've got a pretty hefty agenda at the next meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight. So I would be appreciated if one of the members of the board would make a motion. And if you agree with Gail Fraser and with me that this matter should be dismissed without prejudice, I would appreciate it if one of the members of the board would make a motion to dismiss the Bing Shen matter without prejudice. Yes, Joy.
Can I make the motion now?
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion that the Bing Shen calendar number 3770-20 be dismissed without prejudice.
Second.
I think we need a roll call, Eileen.
Okay. Mary McNett,
Yes.
Craig Plechner,
Yes.
Jyoti Sharma,
Yes.
Joyce Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Okay, I have no other matters to deal with before we go to the actual agenda itself. And the first matter on the agenda are two memorializations. And once again, I want to thank Joy Siegel and Mary McNett, who have reviewed the resolutions they do every month and provide comment and improvements. And they work with Gail to make sure that we have absolutely perfect resolutions that we can, where we can memorialize decisions that have been made by the board. So the first one is Linda and Ira Berkowitz. Are there any other corrections or additions that anyone wants to make to that memorializing resolution? If not, is there a motion to adopt the memorializing resolution? Who's eligible to vote on this? Eileen?
All full members with the exception of Joy and Wolfgang.
Wolfgang is or is not?
He is.
He is.
Mhm.
But let's see if we can deal with this, excuse me, by regular members of the board. If there are no
No,
additions.
he voted on
or-
voted on the initial application.
Pardon me?
Joy can't vote on it. He's eligible to vote.
Right.
I don't see that I received the memorialization, the draft memorialization, so I haven't reviewed it.
Were they circulated, Eileen?
I thought I circulated them to everyone.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I got my copies.
Are you
All right,
sure?
Wolfgang, then I think that what you knew is you just don't vote
Yeah,
on these. Is there a motion on the first resolution, Linda and Ira Berkowitz, 9 Deerfield Road?
I move approval of calendar 3761-20.
Is that a motion to approve?
Yes, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary McNett,
Yes.
Rick Pletner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes.
And I guess Wolfgang will just be an abstention or just not a vote.
He could be,
Pardon me? An abstention, right. Now the next and last one is Encore Tiaji at 102 Cypress Street in Millburn. Who's eligible here, Eileen?
Same people.
Are there any additions or corrections to the memorializing resolution in calendar 3762-20? If not, is there a motion to approve that memorializing resolution?
Motion to adopt calendar 376220.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary McNett,
Yes.
Rick Pletner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Now, the next matter on the agenda under business are the proposed meeting dates that have been set up by Eileen Davitt. I have a copy of her proposed agenda dates in front of me. Did anybody find anything that they want to discuss tonight with respect to any of those dates? If not, is there a motion to adopt the meeting dates for the zoning board for 2021 and one date in 2022, which is the January 10th reorganization date? Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt the calendar dates for 2021 and 22, January of 22.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded that?
Jody,
Jody, okay. Eileen?
Mary McNett,
Yes.
Rick Pletner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
yes,
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to go to the applications. We have one holdover matter, which is Soltani.
Right. That's Mr. Capolicchio.
Michael Juris too.
Yeah, hold on a sec.
Hi, Eileen, how are you?
Hi, oh, there it is, Mrs. Sultani. So, is there anybody else that needs to come over?
Yes, Howard Roberts is the landscape expert.
Got it, okay. So I have you, Michael Juris, the applicant, and your landscape architect.
Yeah, I also do have the planner, Mr. McDonough, is also available too. Should the board have any
And
questions?
Matthew, will you state clearly for the record your appearance, please?
Certainly. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Matthew Capolicchio, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Bezana Jennifer Soltani.
Proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just remind Mr. Juris and Mr. Soltani that they are previously sworn and remain under oath. I do not believe Mr. Roberts was sworn in last time. So perhaps we can ask Mr. Fishman to swear in Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts, Mr. Juris, you're both on mute.
I believe Mr. Soltani did testify at the last hearing.
Yes, he was sworn as well.
And you understand, Mr. Soltani, you're still under oath.
Understood. Thank you.
And Mr. Juris, I can't see you, but if you would raise your right hand, please.
It's raised.
Okay, do you swear from the testimony about to give in tonight's Zoom hearing to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do, but I was sworn in previously.
Yes, he was.
Oh, okay. So who has to be sworn in?
Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Roberts. Can't see you
Yes.
either, so if you would raise your right hand.
It's raised.
Okay, do you swear from the testimony you give tonight in the Zoom hearing to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Absolutely. Yes.
You would just state your name for the record, please?
Howard Roberts.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Capolicchio, would you like to proceed, please?
Yes, thank you. Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, we're back on the record in connection with the application. We have submitted for the board's review a supplemental landscape plan, which Mr. Roberts has prepared in connection with to address the concerns of board members in regards to how the application was being put forward for the pool and accessory equipment on the property. Mr. Roberts is the individual who had prepared the landscape plan. I'd like to introduce Mr. Roberts as the landscape expert in this matter. Howard?
Yes.
Are you able to provide the board with your background in landscaping?
Yeah, I've owned a company called Liquid Ink and Liquidscapes, which is a full service pool and landscape design build firm of 43 years. I have installed over 4,000 projects over my career. And within the fold of my company, we are certified as landscape architects, as pool builders and landscape contractors.
And Mr. Roberts, have you testified before Board of Adjustment before?
Yes, in my 43 years, I probably have testified over 30 times.
Very good. Are you able to describe for the board the landscape plan that you had submitted?
Yeah, with the concern and question of the position of the pool equipment pad and air conditioner units in the front yard, we have created 2 layers of protection visually. One will be a solid panel fence with a gate access 4 feet vertical. And then in front of that physical presence of the fence will be a hedgerow of what we call skip laurels, which is an semi-evergreen plant that will go into the ground at 5 to 6 feet in height and 3 feet on center. So it'll be a immediate evergreen screen, taller than the fence and also taller than the actual equipment and units we're talking about. And also, we are not just the landscape architects of record on the project. The Sultanis intend to have us build the project as well. So I'm controlling both ends of the product.
Mr. Roberts, what was the height of the skip laurels?
I'm suggesting they go in 5 to 6 foot vertical.
Thank you.
And with
And
them
that's
being
5 to
planted,
6 feet. That's 5 to 6 feet above the root ball. Is that correct?
yes, correct. So in other words, when the plants go in the ground, it'll already be a dense hedge and already established.
How tall is that fencing that is shown on the drawing?
4 feet, 4
Thank
foot
you.
solid panels.
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts, can you opine as to what the maturity of those skip laurels are and what the height of those would be?
Yeah, again, they'll be going in at 5 to 6 feet in height vertically. And if they're 5, 6 feet in height, they're typically 30 to 36 inches wide. So once we plant this hedgerow, excluding the gate entry for service, it'll be a solid evergreen screen, taller than the fence and taller than the air conditioner units and the pool equipment. So not visible from the road.
And are there additional plantings that you're proposing on the property as well?
Yeah, the property will be fully landscaped. There's going to be, for example, green giant arborvitaes, which are deer tolerant, conform to a wonderful hedgerow for privacy and screening, tolerate sun and shade. And again, going in at 8 to 10 feet vertical, and probably I'd suggest conforming them to a maximum height of 12 feet.
And those green giant arborvitae plantings, where on the property will they be located?
If you're facing the front of the home, they'll be on the right side to soften the presence of the home for the neighbor. And then they'll be on the left side to screen and soften the home from the street.
Are there any additional plantings that are contemplated?
Yeah, there'll be plantings throughout the foundation of the home. There'll be plantings along the retaining walls, the boulder walls. And yeah, we've developed an entire planting design for the property, as you can see on the site plan.
Are there any other questions of this witness? I have one. Looking at your drawing, there doesn't seem to be a height at planning shown for the hedgerow to the far right of the property on the far right and the far left. Can you tell us how high those plants will be?
Yeah, going in, I'm typically suggesting they're 8 feet vertical. Again, from the top of the root ball up.
How many feet?
8 feet.
8 feet.
And then I'd let them mature to about 10 to 12 feet before I start to control the growth and start to train them into a solid hedge.
Are there any other questions from board members of this witness? Eileen, is there anyone in the audience who has a question of this witness?
I hold on, yes, I do have one question from Mr. Sivan. I'll bring him over.
Who is that?
Michael Sivan? Sivan?
Yes, Mr. Ceylon.
Yes. So
Tell
is
us
this,
where can you tell us where your property is?
yes, I'm located at 89 Elm Street. I am several houses up the street on Elm Street across, on the opposite side of the street.
On the opposite side, okay.
Correct.
Now, I just want to caution you, this is the time for you to ask questions of Mr. Roberts only. No comments, no opinions. There'll be time for that.
Sure, sure. So, Mr. Roberts, are you responsible for the fencing on the property as well?
Yes.
Okay, based on the current drawing, it looks like the fencing around the pool is actually directly on top of the pool coping and not around the yard. Is that incorrect on the plans?
Yeah, that's incorrect. It wouldn't be on top of the coping. It's on top of
There's
the
actually- No.
retaining wall.
That's not what's on the plans. What I'm looking at on the plans that are online, it shows actually a gate on the front edge of the pool, and it shows, looks like a fence around the pool, and it does not show a fence around the yard, which was actually on the prior site plan.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that document in front of me, but whatever's required to make pool code compliance will address it. We can't get our final approval without having a closed
Oh,
loop.
I understand. Okay, so the fence, so no, not the fencing that you're putting around the pad, but the fence that you have around the pool and on the yard is not correct on the site plan that is associated with today's meeting. That's all I wanted to confirm.
All right, like I said, unfortunately, I'm not at my office. So if that has to be corrected, then we'll be corrected, but we have to have a closed loop.
No,
to
the
meet
loop,
code.
the loop is closed. This is Michael Juris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, again, it
Yes,
was
Michael.
closed on the plan that you filed for the last meeting on the landscape plan, which I'm looking at, which is attached to this meeting. There is no loop other than directly on top of the pool. And that's, I just wanted to confirm that it's actually not, that this plan is not correct and that the prior one, the one that you had filed is.
The last revision of this, of the grading plan, which is revision number 3, back in August 22nd, 2020, has a fence which is 3 feet away from the retaining wall because that's a requirement.
Okay. Yep, okay,
And it closes off the backyard area where the pool is located. And there's a
Okay.
gate in the front for access.
okay. So
And a
that is
gate-
not, I understand that, but that is not on the plan that was submitted with today's meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that what was going to be built was that and not on the plan that I'm looking at today with the landscaping.
I can't imagine you're looking at a different plan, but okay.
Are you looking at the green, the plan with the trees and the green?
Oh, no,
variance?
that's, I'm talking, this is, now I understand the issue.
Yeah.
You're looking at a conceptual landscape plan that was prepared by Howard. This is a grading plan which incorporates the exact location of the fence, the gates. It has no landscaping other than boulder walls.
Okay, right,
You're
okay,
looking,
because-
you're looking at the, excuse me, you're looking at the landscape plan and perceiving that whatever gate fence is shown on there is actually shown in the final plan. That's not the case.
okay, but this is the plan that shows, this is the only plan that we have that shows the location of the fence around the pad that has the AC equipment. So will there be a new grading plan that has that fence on it as well?
Yeah, I assume that that will be a requirement of the committee to revise the grading plan to reflect any comments or changes that, were put forth this evening.
Yeah, well,
Okay, okay. I have, okay, that
Yeah,
answers that.
just, okay.
Any
So
other
I do have another
questions?
question about,
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'm asking Mr. Silan, do you have any other questions?
yes, I do, about the green giants placed on the north side of the property, which is the uphill side, the right, when you're facing what is now going to be the front of the house. Those green giants are planted, it looks like directly on top of the root system of the large tree that is right next to the house. And while it is nice that they're going to be planted there, I don't see how those green giants can be planted where they are, because that's like a 50-foot tall tree. And that root system, there's going to be like massive roots right there. So I don't, one, where will the trees actually be? Because I don't think they can go where they're drawn on the plan without damaging that tree.
That's a decision you make in the field. Once we start to get into the planting, from a conceptual standpoint, we're just showing a hedgerow to soften the structure from the neighbor above, which I had met in person, and we're leaving their American hollies. The tulip you're referring to is the large deciduous tree.
Yeah,
And
it's a
once
tree
we
with like
start-
a 4 or 5 foot diameter trunk.
The tulip tree.
Yeah, it's a tulip poplar.
Okay, all right. Okay,
So
so
we will-
again, what is shown on the plan is actually not what is going to be planted, because you can't plant the trees where they're drawn, right? Because of that big tree there. So,
Right,
okay.
like I said, you have to make a field decision on that. So as we start to dig, if we start to come near any anchor roots, then that's all going to be hand dug, not by machine. Then we'll start to make a determination of where I can position those trees. Because the tree is so high branched, the neighbor above asked if we would create some type of evergreen buffer to soften the
I
mass of the
understand that.
home.
And again, this past week, there was a landscaping crew out there that cut a significant number of tree branches off that tree. And I know when the house was actually built and digging the foundation, a good portion of the root system of that tree was already damaged. So I just wanted to make sure we get assurances that the tree would not be further damaged by the plantings that you're proposing.
Yeah, I have a background in etymology. I have a background in arboriculture. We've already had an arborist go out and look at the tree when they were digging the overdig for the foundation for the home, which is conforming to setbacks. Even though you typically don't feed tulip trees, because they're soft wooded and fast growers, I suggest you do anything they can to assist the tree during the stress of construction. We're going to be maintaining virgin grade. So again, we're going to do whatever we can to keep the tree. It had some storm damage, which was repaired and pruned. And we're trying to satisfy a neighbor above by creating some type of softening of the home. Skip laurels were originally suggested, but they don't give them the height that they like. So we went with green giant arborvitaes that are deer tolerant, shade tolerant, and I can control the growth of that hedge.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm that you weren't going to just plant them in without, because I think that tree is a really pretty tree, and I think that does provide a bunch of screening. And as long as you're preserving that, then that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Silan?
Not for the landscaper, no.
Any other questions from anyone in the audience concerning the
Yes,
testimony of
whatever,
Mr. Roberts?
Sal Paloma, who had his hand raised. I don't know.
Hi. Saul Palomo. I live across the street at 375 Wyoming. I was wondering, I was going to ask Howard Roberts, I have no idea, the decibels, pool equipment, what level that is. Is it equivalent to HVAC noises? If I'm in my front yard across the street in the summer or spring, will I be hearing the machinery going?
Yeah, the equipment today is so efficient and so quiet, like many of your air conditioners today. You literally have to touch the equipment even though it's on. The only apparatus that you even hear any type of whistling, and it's a very light whistle, is when you put the jets on for a spa. But in this case, we're not involved in a spa. It's a plunge pool. So there's really no factor of any type of noise.
Okay, that was my main question. I had no idea.
Yeah, usually if you hear something that's loud, it's probably a pump that's going. And that's why you might hear a whistle or a scream, because it's just an old tire pump that probably needs to be replaced.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions, Eileen, of anyone in the audience?
I do not see any. Oh, Michael Seelon has a hand raised again. Hold on.
All right. Again, I don't know if this is the right time for this question, but the question has to do with the placement of the pool equipment and the air conditioning equipment as specified on the plans that were submitted today and the plans that were submitted for the last meeting. So I don't know if this is the right witness to ask of that, or if there's someone else who can answer those questions.
Your question is concerning the placement of that equipment?
Yeah, again, on the plans, the equipment looks like the placement of the equipment as it's specified on those plans doesn't look, I don't believe it can go where it is. As the pool equipment, there's gas company equipment specifically on the pad where the pool equipment is slated to go.
Well,
And
this is probably not the witness to answer that question, but Mr. Kapalecchia will produce the witness who can answer that question.
Okay, that was my question. I didn't know if this was the right time for that or not. That was all.
What's the concern? See if I can help, Michael. What's the concern?
Well, it's just, again, the drawings don't reflect the accuracy of the actual site. On the site right now, there's a massive gas meter and pipe mechanism where the pool pump is slated to go. So, I mean, clearly, the pool pump would still be on that pad. It just couldn't be in the location that it's in. It just, again, it seems that these plans are not accurate.
Yeah, when we had done this design months ago, the gas line was not in place.
Howard, respectfully, I think that Mr. Juris could answer that question in a more pointed manner.
Okay.
I do believe that the plan that was submitted and this plan does have the proper placement of the equipment as it was proposed. But Mike, do you have any comment on the gas line issue?
My plan doesn't show the location of the gas or the sewer. Well, see, the sewer is going towards Wyoming. I know that.
Yeah, no, again, look, my question is that all as residents of the community and people on the street, all that we have to go with is what we're seeing on the plans. And I'm just saying that, like, again, to me, it looks like the plans are not representative of what we're looking at. So when we're trying to get some assurances or level of comfort or understanding of what's going in, again, it just, and I guess the board is going to be reviewing the plans and making a determination about the variance based on the validity of what's specifically in the plans, whether it's screening, the fencing, and it just seems like it just seems like there are inaccuracies. So my question was just, I wanted to make sure I had an understanding of what was going in and where it was. Look, also my question is also about the AC units where the AC met pipes and electrical hookups are already in location for that pad. The variance hasn't been granted yet. So again, it looks like there was never an intention to put the AC units anywhere else, or they're assuming that the variance will get passed. And also the AC units are toward the back of the pad where the hookups right now are sticking out by the front of the pad. Again, I don't know if those are questions for Mr. Jurist, or if it's even the right time to ask those questions, but.
Yeah, I don't have, my plan does not show the gas line. I'm not sure what you're referring to be quite honest with you. But
there's a gigantic gray pipe structure on the plan, and there's a big gas meter. It's probably about like, I don't know, several feet wide by several feet tall, where on the plan where, again, it's just the plans are not reflective of what's there. And again, based on, I'm trying to be a squeaky wheel, but again, the level of comfort that we have with the decisions that are being made by the board are based on what we're seeing on these plans. And if they don't appear to be reflective of, what's actually at the site.
Well, the tough thing, Michael, in our industry is, yes, we're trying to provide a very strong conceptual understanding of what's to be proposed. We're not working from as-built conditions, and then as the conditions change, we'll adapt. But the general location is what we're proposing, and then the required double screening is to achieve the goal for everybody to feel comfortable with the position of the pool equipment pad and the AC, that it's not only being screened by a solid panel fence, but also a second line of screening with a 6-foot hedge of semi-evergreen plantings.
Sure.
So, but yeah, it's in the building world, if you go back to any application, what has been proposed and what the as-built is, there's going to be slight tweaks, just like I answered your question about, yes, to satisfy the neighbor on the right, I wanted them to know they were conscious of their concern of the position of the house, which is conforming, but we wanted to appease the neighbor on the right and said, we'll do what we can to soften the appearance of the home. But like you said, until we get into start hand digging and trenching and see where the anchor roots of that tulip, there's going to be probably an adjustment in the field.
Right. Look, and again, speaking of inconsistencies on the plan, there's also a window well at the back in the northwest corner of the house, which is part of the foundation, which isn't on any of the plans that have been submitted. And again, with regard to landscaping, the landscaping shows, I believe, a bluestone walkway going directly over where there's a gigantic concrete window well, which drops about 10 feet down into the earth. Again, it just goes toward the level of accuracy of the plans that have been submitted. And, I guess I don't want to say dishonesty because maybe it's just mistakes. But again, we're looking at plans that are supposed to be reflective of the building that's there. Now, this window well is, as I said, I don't know, it's maybe 8 feet wide and 8 feet long, maybe 3 or 4 feet deep. And it drops, deep meaning, out from the house, and it drops about 10 feet into the ground. And there's a window there. That's not on the plans. And it shows a walkway. So when we're talking about conceptual layouts and for whether it's the walkways, the patio, or even just the screening, it's, and I hear what you're saying, but it's hard to know, like, you're saying all sorts of stuff, but if that's not what's on the plan and that's what's approved, then what's on the paper is what's going to go in and not what you're saying, right?
If again, this was a conceptual plan to focus on the client's needs and wants and expectations, and also to conform to meet all zoning requirements. So if things have changed in the field since that concept, then we'll.
But like the shape of the foundation. This is more for Mr. Jurist, I guess. The shape of the foundation hasn't changed. It's not like when they built the foundation that they didn't build the foundation in accordance to what was on the initial plans.
Listen, not every detail of the foundation. You want to make sure that the position of the house meets all of the code requirements, that the impervious surfaces in building coverage meets all of the code requirements. That's the primary, and the grades won't affect runoff conditions on neighborly properties.
No, that's true. That's true. But on the back corner of the house that I'm talking about, you have a stone path on the ground that's impervious, right? But that stone path is up against the house. But the reality is the stone path will not be against the house. It's going to be it will start about 4 feet away from the house because there's a light well there and you can't have the stone up against the house. So that then pushes it closer to the property line. And there's a side yard setback there, I guess, of 12 feet. So my question is the actual position of that stone path going to be compliant with the side yard setback back there? Or are you just not going to have the stone path? Because as I said, there's a gigantic light well there. Window well that sticks out from the foundation of the house, like about 3 or 4 feet.
the stepping stone path is not considered a structure. So there are no, it's not a setback issue, it's a coverage issue.
Okay, well, fine. I guess it's not an accessory structure, the walkway.
Not an accessory structure, that's
Okay.
correct.
Fine, all right. So it's just an inaccuracy on the plans. Okay, fair enough.
I just want, if I can just be heard on a quick point, just in connection with the AC pool equipment pad, essentially the applicant had moved this to that side to be consistent with the aesthetics of the home. And also in a prior rendering of the plan, the air conditioning system was on the other side of the house, which the neighbor voiced their objections over. So as a result, and in recognition of that, the applicant had moved it to its proposed location where we're on the other side of the house, where it is presently on both Mr. Juris's plans and also Mr. Roberts' plans, depicting what we're seeking the relief for. The reason why we need to seek the relief is, of course, because the variance prohibits the accessory structures in the front yard. So that's why we're seeking for variance relief in connection with that. But it was not by any way, shape, or form to circumvent the ordinance as it was prepared.
Yeah, I have no more questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to pose a question to Gail Fraser, our attorney.
There's someone with their hand raised.
Oh, is there someone else?
Yes.
Yeah, I brought him over. David Saxel.
David Saxel. You're muted, David.
No, Matthew, the attorney?
Yes.
Yeah, we made that comment at the last meeting about moving the air conditioner when it wasn't our idea. I just said if it had to be somewhere, I wanted it on the other side. It wasn't.
No. I apologize if I misquoted. I just said in connection with that,
Right.
the applicant had, took that into consideration.
Right, but it wasn't us saying we,
No. I think that where it's proposed on the plan is furthest from all of the neighboring properties, and that is why, in connection with the totality of circumstance, that is why the applicant had sought to place it at that side.
Okay, but it didn't start here.
No, I didn't seek to convey it in that manner.
Okay, that's it.
Anyone else, Gail? I mean, Eileen, I'm sorry.
I do not see any others.
Okay, Gail, I'm going to pose this question to you. The questioner has indicated that there are at least 2 or 3 circumstances that would make the plans that have been submitted to the board unable to be followed exactly, both with respect to, with respect to a pathway, with respect to perhaps the air conditioning equipment location, and with respect to the plantings on the north side of the property. Are you satisfied that you could, in a resolution, refer to these plans despite the fact that they are not absolutely accurate?
Well, I'm satisfied that we can articulate in a resolution that the landscape buffer on the north side of the property be located to provide a sufficient screening from the adjacent neighbor without impacting on, the existing tulip tree, number one. We could easily do that. Maybe even the board may decide they want the township forester to be involved in the location of that landscape buffer of the green giants. In terms of the back walkway, I think that's an issue for Eileen. If it's a paving stone walkway, does its location impact on accessory side setbacks? And in terms of the location of the structures that are being approved, the placement of the AC and pool equipment, they obviously need to be in accordance with the plan. And that's what's going to be approved. So if for some reason the applicant has to relocate the equipment because of an existing gas line or some other existing problem, they may need to come back to the board. The board is approving what's shown on the plans in terms of the location of the permanent improvements.
So I think, Matt, your client has a decision to make. I think that Ms. Fraser has accurately described what is being approved is what's shown on the plans. If in fact the plans have to be changed, that is the location, for example, of the pool equipment and the AC equipment have to be, or the pool equipment, I guess, has to be changed because the questioner is correct that there is a gas line that would prohibit the location where shown on the plans. It seems to me that Ms. Fraser is correct that you'd have to come back. So I think the issue is, do you take an adjournment now, which will take you well into January, maybe even February, before you can come back and have your experts go over the plans on site to be sure that they are absolutely accurate? Or do you take a shot and hope that that you don't have to come back sometime in the middle of 2021 because you find out that in fact you've got to move the pool equipment because there is a gas main there and the gas company won't move it? So I think that's really a decision that you have to make with your client. And I assume, Eileen, that there's some way that the attorney and his client could speak privately without the rest of us hearing what they're saying. Is that possible?
Well, not in this forum. I would have to put them both back as attendees, and then they would have to figure out amongst themselves how they want to get in touch with each other. But that would
Yeah,
be.
we could put them
Mr.
back
Chairman,
as
Mr.
we could
Chairman,
put them back as attendees and then they could talk on the cell phone. But the one thing, Matt, I just want to tell you, the document submitted with the aerial view
Yes.
and the photograph of the house, I can see that gas line on that structure that juts out from the main house. So I can see that gas line where it's currently located. And then I see the photo simulation of the fence with presumably the concrete pad for the AC and the pool equipment inside there. So I don't know if that location is something that Mr. Jurist is aware of. Has he seen these photographs?
yeah, I guess if I could speak, Mr. Chairman, and yeah, we are comfortable with what it's located. There's plenty of space there for not only the AC, also for the again, the equipment. The pool is pretty small. It's not a massive pool, so it's the pool equipment is very small. And the gas meter that they're talking about, it is actually is not 4 foot by 2 feet. That's the size of a generator. It's much smaller, just like a regular gas meter. There's plenty of space for all of that, and I'm very comfortable with the plans that's submitted and the intent of the thing, and it will work. So I think if should something change and we cannot implement the plan to comply with what's being approved, or is being considered, we'll be happy to come back, but I'm very comfortable we can accomplish what's being submitted.
I guess your client has answered the question, hasn't he?
Certainly has, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any other witnesses that you want to put on tonight?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Can I add to the conversation?
Sure.
Yeah, so getting back to the tulip, again, whether we have the town arborist come out, I know Tom Doty personally. I've worked with Tom Doty for over 20 years. He's going to make the same resolution that we were going to make right now today, that when we evaluate the tulip and look at the anchor roots and the feeder roots of the tree, we'll make the appropriate decisions in the field to determine what elevation to set those trees and what position. And this is all something that's not required. It's something that the client is doing to satisfy the neighbor on the right, who I had a wonderful conversation with several times in person on the site. And their biggest objection was the fact that, you know, they wish the house wasn't so close to their property, but it is conforming. And our client is just trying to satisfy the client in I think in a very nice way, and saying, look, we're going to do everything we can to put screening on that side so the home is not as imposing, with the sensitivities of doing what we can to respect the tulip tree. As much as the tree is beautiful, tulip trees are very soft-wooded, very prone to lightning strikes. They're a liability to any neighboring property because it's very soft-wooded from heavy winds and snow. It's not an oak. So that's something else. It's just as much of liability being there as it is beautiful. As far as the window well, we're not talking about a solid walkway. We're talking about a stepping stone path for pure circulation. It's not a high traffic area. And if we have to adjust the stepping stone path around the window well, it's not a permanent structure, and it'll be adjusted accordingly in the field. We were retained to do a conceptual plan to assist in the zoning approval process and to assist in giving the client a sense of vision for his needs and wants and a sense of cost. So if there's things that have to be adjusted in our plan because things have slightly changed in the field, this is not an uncommon occurrence. And we have plenty of room. I've been out to the property myself. We have plenty of room to fit the pool equipment pad. I'm not the plumber, so I'm not doing the AC. And the main contention was, if the equipment is going to be in the front yard, can we screen it and keep the neighbors happy? And we're not only doing one level of screening with a solid panel fence, but a secondary level of screening with a larger evergreen hedgerow. So we're providing immediate protection, double protection, and the plantings going in are going to be already established and mature at 5 to 6 feet of height. So the client is doing everything he can to meet all the requirements. And yes, like any build project, what's proposed and what happens in the field are sometimes a tweak. Nobody knows what the root system is under the ground in that tulip. So we'll deal with it appropriately once we start getting into it. But the goal here is not to compromise the tree. The goal here is to create some softening of the home for the neighbor above.
And I think Howard.
Mr. Chairman, let me just add. I think the landscaping that Mr. Roberts is talking about and that we're talking about when we talk about the Green Giants, that landscaping on the north side is wholly unrelated to the
application
and the AC equipment. The only landscaping that's relevant to the variances at issue here is the landscaping that would conceal the AC pad. And as Mr. Roberts said, they're doing a 2-layer thing. They're doing the 4-foot solid fence and they're doing the row of skip laurels. The front yard setback variance, which is the third variance in this case, relates to the pool having a 66-foot setback, but it's buffered from the property to the north by the existing dwelling. So the green giants on the north side of the property really don't relate at all to any of the three variances being requested.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're getting onto issues that are very simple to resolve, and those decisions will be made simply in the field. I feel like it's getting over exaggerated. And I just wanted to bring that up. These are typical things that are adjusted in the field, but we're still meeting. And as you indicated, the real contention here was to screen the equipment. What the client is offering and doing by the tulip is just something as a way to, make the neighbors happy. It's not even
It's
required.
not related to the application.
Exactly.
Okay.
And now he's being penalized for it by going out of his way to make the environment better. But that doesn't mean we're going to act as if we don't want the tulip to survive. I mean, whatever impact that tree has had, it's had by digging the foundation of the home. But the virgin grade is the same. It hasn't changed. Some of the feeder roots were cut during the overdig of the house, but the house is conforming within its setbacks. So, all these issues that are coming up are just seem unnecessary and exaggerated.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
anything more, Mr. Chapelet?
I would just like to point out to the board, essentially, I believe that the applicant's proposal sufficiently is aesthetically pleasing for the neighborhood, sufficiently taking into consideration the neighboring properties by keeping the pool equipment and the air conditioning equipment furthest from any of the neighboring properties, with the sufficient landscape plantings as well as the fencing. And I think that from the prior hearing, that was one of the board's primary concerns, is how this was going to be looked at from when the construction was completed. So I believe that the proposed landscape plan in that regard satisfies the board's inquiry.
Thank you. Now, this is the time when any neighbors who want to speak to the matter, not ask questions, but speak to the matter, have the opportunity to come forward and be recognized by the chair. Is there any neighbor or anyone else in the audience who would like to offer an opinion on this matter? Eileen, is there any hand up?
There are no hands raised.
All right, board members, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about this matter. Mary?
Yeah. Sitting through this whole hearing, I couldn't help but think this is a brand new development. And we're talking about putting machinery in the front yard with a vinyl fence to solve it. I find this to be a manufactured hardship. And if the house was not located where it is, so jammed up against that far side, some of these things could have been avoided. So with that, I would not support this application.
Anyone else? Mary?
Yes, I would like someone to review the variances, since we had this at the last meeting, and just so we know exactly what we're voting on.
Gail, would you like to do that?
You're muted.
First variance is for front yard setback. The pool improvements are going to be 66 feet from Elm, whereas 80 feet is required because it's a corner lot. And then the pool equipment is going to be and the pad for the pool equipment and the AC equipment is going to be in the front yard, and it's an accessory structure on the corner lot, and so the placement in the front yard is contrary to the ordinance. So there's essentially 3 variances.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board have a comment on this matter? Steve, you look pregnant with.
I remember from the last meeting, and I'm going to ask the applicant to address Craig's point, because it's an excellent point about this being new construction. Why couldn't it be constructed in such a way where these variances wouldn't exist? And I think we may have addressed this in the last meeting, but I'm going to ask someone from the applicant to again address Craig's point, please.
All right, before I permit counsel, if he wishes, to have a witness address that issue, I'm going to ask if there's anybody else on the board who has a comment on this case.
Yeah,
Yes, Wolfgang.
if I recall from last meeting, with respect to the positioning of the equipment, again, I think that the determination was made to put it where it is now, due to the possible impact of noise for the neighbors, very, toward the back of the house, and that actually it was determined that the place furthest away from most other residences was going to be where it's been put now. If I recall, that was what we had discussed last time, or that was the reasoning that we had been presented with and had discussed.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board have a comment or question they would like to raise at this time? Mr. Kapalecki, any comments?
2 comments. I think just for the record and for clarity, the pool variance request that we'd have to go for a board approval of the pool. No matter how the existing structure was placed on the property, by virtue of it being a corner lot, that was unavoidable. So we would have to apply to seek for a variance in that regard. On the AC equipment and pool equipment, the reasoning for the placement, again, it was in consideration of how the existing structure is on the lot and how this proposed placement can be placed on the furthest away area from the neighbors, which would eliminate any of their concerns. Secondarily, on a plan, I guess a proposed plan that was submitted before this application during the building construction, there was a seeming approval of the air conditioning plan as it was placed on the lot. Recognizing the recognizing the ordinance, that's why we're seeking to have board approval of the placement of the air conditioning system as well as the pool equipment, because it cannot be in the front yard as is proposed.
Thank you. I don't have much to add myself. I think that to a large extent, Wolfgang has identified the issues here. The 80 feet is double the normal setback because it's a corner lot. That's always troubled me and still does. I think the location of the pool equipment, I think Wolfgang is correct. It's farther away. I'm looking at the proposed AC and pool pad location drawing that I think was submitted at the last hearing. Looking at the first page, the Google Earth photo, it's very clear there that that equipment is farthest away from everyone except the property across the street on the other side of Elm. But even there, that's a great distance away. So I would be inclined to grant these 3 variances, none of which Gail, you correct me if I'm wrong, none of which requires a vote of 5 members. Is that correct?
That is correct. They are all C variances, and I would point out, Mr. Chairman, that at the last hearing, the applicant's planner, John McDonough, even testified that the location of the equipment, both the pool and the AC equipment, the board could rule on that as a C2 variance where the benefit outweighs the detriments. And I think that's the rationale explained by Mr. Kapaleckia tonight, that it's farthest away from the neighbors, so it has the least detrimental impact on the adjacent neighbors.
Thank you. All right, board members, before we move on to the next case, is there a motion one way or the other here?
I'll move approval.
Jessica Glad moves approval. Is there a second? That's to all 3 variances. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is there a second? I'll ask again, is there a second? The motion seems not to be able to secure a second. And I think that that is tantamount to the rejection of the application. Is that not correct, Gail?
I think, you know, it's going to die for want of a second, but I think the board, is there another motion?
I'll ask you if there's another motion. I know that Craig has one.
Motion to deny.
Is there a second on the motion to deny? Joy Siegel seconds that. Eileen,
Mary McNabb,
Yes, on the motion.
Craig Plattner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Toger.
Steve, we didn't hear you.
Or what was your vote?
No.
Jessica Glatt,
No.
Joseph Steinberg.
no. So that motion fails, is that right?
No, that motion passed 4-3.
4-3 in favor of the motion?
That's correct.
To
The
deny.
application is denied.
The application is denied. Okay, we have to move to the next case now. And on the agenda, if I can find mine, which has managed to get buried here, is Rubenstein.
Okay, give me a moment, Joe. I gotta get these people out of here first. Okay, now we're doing Rubenstein. All right.
The Rubenstein case is next. The Rubenstein case is a case involving signs. Is there anyone appearing on this case?
Yes, Mr. Rubenstein is here.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
Hey,
And
is that it? Just Mr. Rubenstein?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Rubenstein, if you would just raise your right hand, please. You swear from the testimony you're about to give in tonight's Zoom hearing to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
You just state your name and address for the record, please.
Alex Rubenstein, 15 Sherwood Drive, Watchung, New Jersey, 07069.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Proceed. You
I
want
don't
to
think
tell
you
us
heard
why you want these variances?
Oh, I'm sorry. Basically, we were looking to put up that sign that you guys have a picture of. It's basically a sign that gives us a little visibility off of Main Street when you're traveling down either way. Without that, we don't have any parking or any kind of real visibility of what our location is or where it is. So basically, long story short, I went ahead and I did that painting basically on the wall of the building. And I didn't realize I was doing anything wrong at the time, but I thought it was going to be I thought it was more of a mural more than anything, but we were just looking to add some visibility to the restaurant, long story short.
All right, questions from board members of this witness? Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions of this witness? Questions only, not statements now. Anyone, Eileen?
No.
No. Yes, Wolfgang.
Just a question. How difficult or onerous would it be to reduce the height of the mural?
It would be really difficult because you wouldn't really see it at all. The reason we did it at that height is it provides people visibility of the sign when you're at the stoplight at the corner of Main Street and Millburn.
I meant more like the mural itself is not the height off the ground, but it is of a particular height itself.
When we did the mural, we actually tried to do everything in the constraints of what the sign code is. So none of the letters are bigger than 2 foot, which is what you're allowed by the code, which is what I believed anyway. So I actually tried to do everything by the letter of the code. I just didn't know that you weren't allowed to put it above the 2nd floor. That's where I went wrong.
Any other questions of this witness? Is there anyone in the audience who has a statement he or she would like to make with respect to this application?
Sorry, Joe?
Yes.
I just need a
Steve.
clarification on the comment made.
Can't hear you, Joe. Can't hear you, Steve. There you
Okay,
go.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Better.
So I just want to understand that when you say that the sign can't be above the 2nd floor, does that mean it can't be above the bottom of the 2nd floor? Or
Yes.
it can't be above the top of the 2nd floor?
The bottom of the floor line of the 2nd floor. So the
Floor line, great. So so clearly, as the applicant testified, if the sign was at the floor line of the 2nd floor, you wouldn't be able to see it at all, right? I mean, that's right. That's basically why the applicant positioned it where it is. I just wanted to, in my mind, clarify the reasoning vis-a-vis floor line of 2nd floor, signs painted below the floor line of the 2nd floor, you can't see the sign.
Correct.
You can't see 80%.
correct. But also the issue is that the sign is not permitted to be there because,
Right, I understand that. Okay.
and it's also greater than 2 feet in height, Mr. Rubenstein. It is because you
I'm
have.
sorry, say that again, Eileen.
Well, he indicated that the letters were only 2 feet in height, and clearly the sign is 3 feet according to what was submitted. Because
Well,
there's letters above it and below it.
Well,
Eileen,
again,
is
the
it
letter-
3 feet or 2.5?
What was submitted to me says 3 feet because it says Millburn and then it says standard and then it says restaurant and bar. So the cumulative is, according to what they submitted to me, they have 3 feet written.
again, what you're talking about is the background of the sign.
It's all part of the sign. It's all part.
Listen, I agree it's part of the sign, but it's the backdrop. It's a painted black. I could paint it the color of the building and there would be no difference. Again, what I did, I tried to do something that was tasteful. There's murals all over town. The yoga studio has one. There's buildings with graffiti all over them. All I tried to do was something in a tasteful manner that looked like it belonged, that kind of matched the building. And what Eileen's actually talking about is the black backdrop of the sign. It has nothing to do with the size of the letters.
But what about the the letters that say Millburn
Yeah.
of standard and letters
Those-
below.
Those
that say
those are
residence.
2 foot, those letters.
So you have 2-foot letters, 2-foot letters, 2-foot letters.
Correct.
That's 6 feet.
Oh,
I'm confused.
I'm confused as well. Again, this, I tried to keep each letter at the 2-foot parameter. That was it.
Well, no, because the standard is far larger than the Millburn
Right.
and the
Right.
restaurant and bar. So it's not that, I mean, that sign looks like, is it 6 feet total height?
No, it's not even, no. It's not that big. I think what again, I think what Eileen's talking about is the total size of the sign. I think the total sign itself is about 3.5 feet.
Right, but my point is that because you have letters on top of standard and letters below standard, that whole thing is counted in the height. It's not just considered a backdrop because it's part of the name of your business. So it's,
So if I put the restaurant and bar next to standard, it wouldn't be a problem because the standard, the size of the letters on standard are 2 foot.
so Millburn and restaurant, the Millburn
Yeah.
above it.
And the Millburn is about 1 foot. So if I put Millburn to the left and if I put restaurant and bar to the right, it would all be within the 2 foot. That's what I'm saying. I could do that. I tried to do something tasteful. That was it.
And if I can interject, I mean, the purpose of my questioning was I just wanted to really understand exactly what all the measurements and what all the dimensions that we're
Right.
dealing with. I actually like the look of it very much, but I first of all want to understand exactly what does the code say and exactly what is the situation that we're being asked to consider. And I think we're just trying to clarify that picture.
Okay.
We're not trying to be,
Well, I think
Well,
Eileen
there's,
could,
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Rubenstein, let me just add something here.
yes.
There's 3 variances. And the one variance is for the sign height, and that's based on the lettering that we're having a discussion. And Eileen said, from her perspective, what was submitted shows overall height of 3 feet. Correct, Eileen?
That's what was submitted to me, yes.
Right. The sign above the second floor is the issue, the second variance that Mr. Toger mentioned. That it's above the bottom of the second floor, and it's clearly above the bottom of the second floor based on the photograph. And the third one is you're not allowed to have a sign on the side facade of a building unless you're adjacent to a parking lot, but they don't have a parking lot. They've got a building next to them. And so they can't meet that requirement of having a side facade sign adjacent to a parking lot. So that's the third one, that they have a sign on the side facade, which is not adjacent to parking.
Right, that's it.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
All right, there are no members of the public who have anything to say on this case. Is that correct?
No, there are none.
Board members, any comments from you? Mary?
I have a comment. I have no objection to the sign, and I think it looks very well designed. You can't see anything that has to do with that building if you're coming up on Main Street unless the sign is visible. And when I saw it, I was happy that there was some designation there. The building is painted gray. It's very unobtrusive. I see no problem with it.
Steve?
So the only concern I have is the precedent that it sets for other businesses. How do we manage something through that? How do we manage another business coming with a similar application? How would we ever be able to deny something like this going forward? Assuming we approve this.
Each case in the future would have to stand or fall on its own merits. So you cannot grant or deny this application because you're worried about something that may speculatively happen in the future.
That's correct.
I think
Any other board members? Yes, Wolfgang.
Wait, I just want to, I don't want to belabor the point, but if we approve this one and another business wants to do the same thing and we deny that, can't that other business, appeal that kind of ruling
Well,
based on the approval of this one?
No,
the other business would have to demonstrate that they satisfy the criteria of the statute. Is there a rationale for the placement of a sign on the wall above the second level? Do they have a parking? Do they have on the facade of their building? So they would have to do exactly what this applicant is attempting to do and prove their right to variance relief. And if an applicant in the future is able to demonstrate the same or similar circumstances or other circumstances which justify the granting of a variance relief to allow a wall sign on the side facade of their building, then they would be entitled to relief.
I mean, do we say that there's the improvement of the streetscape and that's a positive criteria? That it's actually an attractive and, it's beneficial to the downtown to have that?
You're free to elaborate on your opinion as to why you think this sign is appropriate as you discuss it right now.
I just like to comment that
Yes, Joy.
I don't see it as a sign. I see it as an advertisement. Because it's not signaling where you go into the building. It seems to be, it's for traffic moving on. I didn't look up. I didn't see it until I was more concerned with the red laminate letters. I thought they were so large. I was very surprised. And then when I realized to me, it didn't strike me as a sign. And I understand why the zoning is written that it should be on a wall from a parking lot because it's a wayfinding. This is not a wayfinding. This to me is an advertisement.
Anyone else?
It's very nice graphics. I'm not disputing that, but I don't understand how it in any way helps somebody find something.
Mary.
I have two points. There are other signs in the downtown that have the same problems. This is to Steve's statement, already in existence and have been for a while. And to Joy's point, it seems to me to designate the property and not be a wayfinder. That's how I interpret it.
But where the sign is, I think people live up there. That's not a store.
No, I own the building and it's offices.
Upstairs?
There's no residential on the second floor.
But is there a restaurant on the second floor?
No, there's no restaurant on the second floor. It's offices.
Anyone else?
I really like it. I think it's important for this business to have it. And I think with the way things are in our downtown, we shouldn't be doing things to make things more difficult for the businesses in our town. I think we should be doing all we can to support them. I have zero problem with this application and I would wholeheartedly support it.
I would agree with you. Is there a motion in this case?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mary McNett,
Yes.
Craig Whitner,
Yes.
Jyoti Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
No.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. I think it's carried correctly.
Correct, approved.
Approved.
Congratulations.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you very much.
Have a
you're
good night.
welcome. All right, we're going to go to the next matter, which is the property at 10 Alexander Lane. This is
Mohebi
another pool. This is the Skouras case.
scores, okay.
Who's appearing for the applicant here?
Rob Roselli has been handling most of the paperwork. And Mr. Roselli, do you want to proceed?
Mr. Roselli, are you there? Can you hear us?
Or Mr. Squirus, if you want to take the.
Mr. Skoros, you're on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
All right, there we go.
Who's appearing for the applicant here?
Well, the applicant is Squirus.
I know.
I don't know if they're going to present on their own.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me? No, this is Lauren Scores. I'm sorry, I'm having technical problems with my video, but Mr. Roselli was supposed to be speaking on our behalf, so I'm not sure. But he's supposed to be
Is
on.
Mr. Roselli here?
He's here. I'm not sure whether he's having technical difficulties.
Do you want to,
Want to carry this matter?
well, or do you want to
Later
come
in the
back later?
meeting?
You want us to proceed with the other matters, or I don't know if you feel confident presenting this on your own.
My preference was to have Mr. Roselli do it, but
Could we just put them further in the agenda and go on to the next application? Maybe they can get in touch with.
We can do that.
yes, please, I'll find him in the next 5-10 minutes. I'm so sorry.
Okay, we'll go on to the
Fine.
next application then.
Okay, the next case is Mohebi on Harvey Drive, which is actually around the corner from,
I think they both got notified of the other ones here.
yes.
Okay, so that is,
The
Mohebi.
properties actually abut each other, believe it or not.
and I think
Now this-
Jonathan Katz is the, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. John.
Eileen, it's John Katz.
Yeah. Okay.
We have Mr. Katz here.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Let me send him a text.
Jonathan, you're on mute.
Here's Jonathan.
If Jonathan Katz is speaking, he's on mute. We can't hear him.
Yeah.
I just sent him a text. Maybe
Pardon me?
Maybe
I just sent him a text. He probably thought the other matter was going, so let me just make sure he's in front of his computer.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got an email, comment from Mr. Roselli, who's having technical issues. So.
Having technical difficulties is shorthand for there's no grandchild in the house to fix it.
He wants to know, can he present typing? No. I don't think that's going to work.
I will not be able to take that down.
No.
No, he cannot do that.
I don't even know how you would do that.
He can't do it. He has to testify verbally, so it can be recorded.
Yeah, Jonathan, we're on now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Good. All right. Okay. He's coming. We're on, so.
Okay. Oh, let me, get the camera on.
We'll have Mr. Fishman swear both of you in.
Okay.
Raise your hand.
Oh, you have somebody with you?
It's my
Just do it.
husband.
Yeah, okay, if you both just raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in tonight's Zoom hearing to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, if you just state your names, spelling your names for the record, please.
Barbara Mohebi,
Cyrus Mohebi.
and that's Mohebbi.
And Cyrus, how do you spell your first name?
Cyrus.
Thank you. Okay, Mr.
Jonathan Katz, Katz. First name Jonathan, Jonathan.
All right, who's going to begin?
Barbara, would you like to begin?
Oh, sure. My husband and I have been residents here since 1991, living in the same house. And we raised our daughter here. It's a wonderful community, wonderful town. We, up until last year, we actually thought we might, move someplace else for retirement. However, our daughter is now moving to Short Hills and we want to stay. So now we want to renovate our house. And this is where we are right now. There are a few things we'd like to make a little more comfortable, and we want to update and upgrade some things.
Okay, so should I start? You're done, Barbara?
I'm done.
We need
Mr. Katz, you need to give us your background
Okay.
and your professional qualifications.
Sure. Jonathan Katz, one of the principals at Katz Duval Architects. I've been licensed in the state of New Jersey since 1986. I have a Master's of Architecture from Georgia Institute of Technology. I've appeared before your board many times, plus there are many other surrounding boards and townships.
Your architect's license is in good standing, is it?
Yes, it is.
Proceed.
Mr. Katz, is this going to be the only photograph or are there others?
I have a few other photographs.
Okay, so let's just mark it as a group, as A1. And you'll tell me how many in total, how many photographs. And then after the hearing, I'll need you to email all the photographs to Eileen so that she can share them with me as exhibits.
Okay, will do.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Let me start with the variances that we're looking for. As Mrs. Mohebi had said, they've been living in their home for 17 years. They actually had looked at a different property and then decided that they wanted to stay in their home and make improvements that are, twofold. First, it's going to make the home much more livable for them. And also it's really going to be an upgrade for the neighborhood. They're looking at completely transforming the aesthetic of the house by putting on a front entrance, and that's where a new front entrance. That's where the first variance comes into play for the front yard setback, where the required is 40 feet. And with the proposed front stoop we're proposing to put on, we're looking for 37.6 feet, 2.4 feet of relief.
And if you go, so it's going to go over this, we're extending this front entrance and putting on a new roof. And I'll bring up the plans to show that. So that's the first variance. The second two variances are in regards to the side setback. And here I'm showing, here's the rear elevation. And we're looking for relief for the left side of the house. The existing setback is already in violation. And we're going to be looking at putting a second floor addition that extends over the existing garage and then 2 feet beyond that for a total of about 5 feet. So it's going to cantilever 2 feet over. The existing side is already in variance, and with the new extending it out, that puts the new addition in variance as well. And there, the requirement is 22 feet, and we're looking at being at 12.9 feet, which is the existing. So we're looking for 9.1 feet of variance relief there. And then the third is for the total combined side yard, where 35% is required. And we're proposing, because we're putting over an existing, which is already in variance, we'll be at 34.7%. So it's 0.3% relief. So those are the three variances that we are looking for. We've explored, other alternatives for achieving their goal of expanding their master bedroom. The master bedroom is in the rear. There's no other practical way to do it but to put it in this area. And because the existing home is in variance on that side, it necessitates the, whatever we do on that side is going to require variance. Let me pull up the floor plan and I can show you the issues there. Well, actually, let me start with the site plan. So the existing is at 12.9 feet. Here's on the left side. Where we're proposing to put the addition is in the rear here. And like I said, the first 3.5 feet or so of it is over the existing garage. And then we're cantilevering approximately 2 feet. So this whole section of the addition, is not the whole section, but this portion is in variance because 22 feet is required. So that's where we are on the master bedroom addition. Then as far as for the front yard, the existing home is at 42.3 feet. There is a small steps and porch that are there that extend another 3 feet or so into, beyond the building setback, the existing building setback of the 42.3 feet, but it isn't sufficient to achieve the having a usable entrance. So we're looking at extending forward, and then we would be looking for relief there. We'd be at 37.6 feet instead of the 40 feet required. Let me pull up the floor plan. So here it is on the floor plan. Here's showing on the first floor what we're looking at doing, where we're looking at extending the front porch approximately 4 feet, and then we have 2 feet for the steps, and where we do push into the required setback. So you can see this is marking the proposed, and the required is here at 40 feet. So that's in regards to the front setback we're looking for relief on. In regards to the side setback, you can see here the existing master bedroom and the 2 bathrooms in a home on this second floor level. The whole side right now is in variance. You can see the required 22-foot setback cuts all the way back to here. So there really isn't a practical way to give them a decent master bedroom and to give space to the bathrooms without violating this side setback and the combined setback. As far as aesthetically, what we're looking at doing Here's the proposed front elevation. Oh, excuse me. The proposed front elevation. So in addition to creating this front porch, which is where we require the setback, we are looking at putting a secondary roof line. That roof line is back behind the setback, so that doesn't come into play. But we're doing that to add to the aesthetic of the house. So we're really trying to transform the entire look of the house. It's going to get new siding. We're looking at putting new hardy plank siding on there, which is both aesthetically pleasing and durable. And then looking at putting PVC shingles over this area and metal roofing. So overall, we feel that it's really enhancing the entire look of the home. And the same aesthetic is being carried around to the new addition in the rear. So this is where the master is going to go. We're adding the new roof line. We put it in this direction, opposite to the existing roof direction, for two reasons. Aesthetically, we feel it looks better. And secondly, it cuts less into the side setback because of the way it slopes. So here you can see the 22 feet. So the portion that cuts into the required setback is reduced because of the way we've designed it. And then from the, oops, excuse me, to the side. And here's a view from the right side. So you can see what we're doing with the front porch. So it's really just this portion here that's in variance. The new roof line here, what we're doing mainly to change the aesthetic. That's not into the required setback. And this is the new roof line that goes in the other direction of the main roof for the master addition. And oops, here is what the left side elevation is going to look like. This is what the neighbors would see. And I'll pull up a satellite view of the neighbors so that you can see that this area is facing onto the driveways of both the neighbors, both the closest neighbors. And both of their houses are, the nearest structure is 106 feet for the one neighbor and almost 90 feet, 89 feet for the other neighbor. So we feel that this aesthetically is pleasing and it really isn't going to have an effect on the neighbors. This is the existing roof line is right here. So you can see we're building over the existing, this is the garage, over the existing garage and extending it out approximately 2 feet. So that's explaining what the configuration is. Let me show you an aerial view so you can see the surrounding neighbors. Here we go. This is a subject property. And this is where we're putting on the front roof. This is the neighbor, the closest neighbors. And like I said, their homes are 89 feet. This home, which is heavily wooded in between, is 89 feet from the side, from the side property line, from the home rather, from the Mojabe's home. And the next closest house here is over 106 feet from the side. And both of these homes in this area is their driveways. So what we're doing in the setback is really not going to affect them at all. And as you can see, this home is quite small compared to the other homes that have been torn down and rebuilt in the neighborhood itself.
Mr. Katz, I'm going to consider that part of A1, which will consist of the 3 sheets, the front facade, the rear elevation, and the aerial view.
Okay, all right. So those are all the exhibits they had added. I went through what the variances are and the setbacks we're looking for. I think that this application can be granted without any detriment to or impairment in the intent or purpose of the township's zoning plan and to the public good. I mean, I think in terms of the neighborhood, it's actually quite positive and it'll be beneficial for the neighborhood. The entrance portico is, aesthetically, it's very pleasing. It's really not a huge encumbrance into the front setback, and it really does add to the aesthetic of the home. I went through that the master addition is quite far from any of the neighbors. It's not going to have any effect on them, and it can't be seen from the street. So those are the main reasons that I feel that this application can be granted. Any questions?
Are there questions from board members? Can we get rid of this?
Madam Chair. Yeah, we need to get back to the.
Mr. Katz, can you take down? this,
Yes. Yeah, I'll stop sharing. There you go. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there questions from board members? I have one. Mr. Katz, the first front yard setback variance
Yes.
you're looking for is extremely small. And my question is, what effort was made to improve the front entrance to the property without requiring a variance?
That's the first thing we did as we looked at it, and I even reviewed it with, Eileen Davitt, the zoning official. And it really, we could not get a decent front entrance with some protection from people visiting without violating that. I always try to design things within the within the regulations beforehand. And we really did everything we could. And without that, I know it's small, but without that, those few feet, we can't get the coverage and the roof line and the aesthetic, and it really doesn't work properly.
Board members, any other questions for any of the witnesses? Is there anyone, Eileen, in the audience who has a question at this point?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who has a comment he or she would like to make with respect to this application? Anyone, Eileen?
No hands.
Board members, I now need to hear from you as to what you think about this application. There are 3 variances being sought. A front yard setback variance of something like 2.4 feet, a side yard combined, which is something in the neighborhood of 0.3%, and the big variance, which is the side yard second floor variance, where 22 feet is required for setback from the side property line, and they're proposing 12.9 feet. Comments?
I have a comment.
Point of view, Mary.
I think it's been very sensitively done and it's taken into consideration in the setting and in the neighborhood. And it will be an improvement on the streetscape.
Anyone else?
I agree with Mary on this one, Joe. It's a pretty reasonable.
Kevin, I can't hear you.
No,
You're.
now you're muted.
Sorry about
Now
that.
Okay.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I agree with Mary on this. I think it's a very reasonable request. And I think it will improve the streetscape.
Well, let me tell you, I have a problem with this application. That is an enormous side yard setback variance request. 22 feet required and about 13 feet proposed. So we're talking about 9 feet. And this is not a minimal amount. This is a very large amount. Now, I went to the property and Mr. Katz is correct. The properties that abut on the street around the corner are a fair distance away from this house. On the other hand, the the picture that was shown, the overhead picture, was taken when the trees were all in bloom and there were leaves on the trees. I went there a couple of days ago, and of course the leaves are all down. So this addition is not going to be hidden from the neighbors. They're going to see it, and it's a substantial, like I said before, it's a substantial variance. I am not 100% sure which way I want to go on this, which is why I'm anxious to hear from other board members. I see nobody is jumping around wanting to be heard on this case.
Oh,
So yes, Joy.
I think it's a good application. When I went to the site, I know it's a large variance, but I think this seems to be that it'll be seen by neighbors, but I think it'll be an improvement on the house. I don't think in any way it'll be something bad to look at, or I think it'll be fine. It's a very modest house for that street right now. And I appreciate that they're not pushing it even further and making it, like one of the other houses on the street. I think it's very modest.
I would echo I would echo Joy's sentiments and thoughts on that.
Is there a motion on this case? And you can, in making a motion, you can deal with all three of the variances, or you can split them up. It's up to whoever makes the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve all three variances.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Joy seconds. Roll call.
Mary McNett,
Yes.
Craig Putner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
I guess this is my opportunity to make a statement, isn't it? Without endangering anybody. So I'll vote no.
Oh my.
I'm generally, let me just explain that I'm generally not in favor of people coming before this board with substantial deviations from the requirements of the ordinance. Okay, the motion is approved and the variances are approved. So we will be considering a memorializing resolution, hopefully at our next meeting, who knows? But, and I understand that I will not be able to vote on it. Okay, now we're going to go back one and see whether or not the Scores matter around the corner at 10 Alexander is ready to be heard. Is Mr. Rosselli available now?
Who is this guy? I have someone named Derek who's raising his hand. I don't know.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sally, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, they can, okay, hi.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, do you need to see me?
Yes,
Well,
we need to see you.
but we didn't see some of the other people.
Right, we didn't see.
We don't
some-
have to see them.
Well, we don't have to see him. It would be nice to see him.
Mr. Chairman, there's somebody named Derek that has their hand raised. I don't know what that's about.
I'll bring him over. Is he with you?
Yeah, he's the contractor. He must be trying to communicate, but I talked to him before. I said I was having technical issues, but that's probably what that's in regards to. But as long as you can hear me, we should be good to go.
Okay.
All right. Well, then he can listen. If he needs to come over, we'll bring him over.
Okay.
So who's testifying?
I'll be testifying, and then if you want to talk to the owners, if they're around, you can ask them questions.
Okay, you need to unmute your microphone, Ms. Corus. So that we can swear. There you go. If Mr. Rosselli, if you both would raise your right hand. So
It's raised.
Do you swear from the testimony you give tonight be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth in the Zoom hearing?
I do.
I do.
Okay, why don't you both just state your names for the record?
My name is Robert Roselli, professional engineer, and engineer of record. I'm the one that submitted the application and did the public mailing, the advertisement.
Mr. Rosselli, you'll have to give us the benefit of your background, your professional qualifications.
I'm a licensed engineer in 3 states, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I've been working in the field of civil engineering for 25 plus years, and I've been before a multitude of planning and zoning boards and throughout my career in both New York and New Jersey. So.
Is your engineering license in New Jersey in good standing?
Yes,
You're an engineer and not an architect, is that correct?
that's correct.
Proceed.
Before you do that, Miss Carroll, what's your first name?
Hi, good evening. My first name's Lauren. Sorry, it says Spiro. That's my husband.
Right, it's Lauren?
Exactly, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rosselli.
Okay, so basically, what we're looking for is the pool and a portion of the patio are already installed, and there was no variance requested for the initial construction. And all the owners are looking to do is just completely surround the pool with patio, because right now it's just the grass directly abuts the edge of the pool. So that's looking to surround the pool with a paver patio for both safety reasons. I mean, you can see the grass, you slip and slide. And also for the cleanliness of the pool, you don't have a direct connection between the lawn and runoff and going directly into the pool. So for those reasons, they want to surround the pool with a paver patio, and that has caused them to surpass the rear yard and total yard lot coverages. Hence the need for the variances in our presentation before the board this evening.
The pool is already installed, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, they wanted to install it without the need for any variances, and then, come back and try and finish this out as I've just stated.
So the pool doesn't put them over on coverage or accessory, rear yard accessory coverage. It's the patio that does that.
Yes, it's the proposed patio that's going to surround the pool that's causing the overage.
And there's already a patio there. They just want a bigger patio?
Well, no, there's a patio and a section of the pool, the main entrance to the pool, but it's not, I guess technically it would be a bigger patio, but they really, what they're looking to do is just surround the pool with patio. So there's not a direct connection from the lawn to the pool as there is now. It's for safety and cleanliness concerns more than anything else.
I was just a little confused about, this when I saw it and when I read the application with the safety and cleanliness. I'm just not fully understanding, a safety issue with there being more grass and less patio and also cleanliness. I know there are plenty of pools, that are just designed that way with grass around them, to take up less coverage. So, that rationale was just confusing to me.
Well, that's basically it. I mean, it's just, the grass is going to get wet and you're going to slip and slide on it. And it's just a better situation, I think, to have patio around it. And that also act as a buffer between the lawn and the pool water itself. You won't have a direct runoff. And that sort of thing. It'll act almost kind of like a filter. I mean, those are the two basic reasons that they're looking to do this.
Oh, sorry.
So why wasn't this taken into account when you originally designed the pool?
So we originally, we have two small kids, and we actually like this sort of, I guess it's sort of like a Hampton style pool. So we only had one side with a patio. And then when we actually put it in and the kids started running around and like slipping and stuff, we were like, oh crap, this probably wasn't the best idea in the world. And so I think like from an aesthetic point of view, it looked really nice, but having two small kids who are basically running around the pool and then like the water is splashing out and going all over and they're slipping and falling, it just didn't seem practical after we had it. And we've never had a pool before or anything like that. So for us, it was sort of like, oh wow, like, live and learn, I guess. And we originally were like, we love the look of it, but it just doesn't work having two kids who are, telling them to stop running around the pool is almost.
Mr. Fishman, has this witness been sworn?
No, I don't think did he raise his right hand when we, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give and gave to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth in this Zoom hearing?
I do.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Just state your name for the record so we have it.
Sorry, it's Spiro Scores. Sorry, my kid was doing work. That's why I was with him.
Okay.
Your first name?
Spiro?
S-P-I-R-O?
Correct.
So in your packet, you state the existing property is relatively small compared to several adjacent yards with pools already installed, but your yard is oversized for the zone.
Well, yeah, it's oversized for the zone, but it is on a
It's
relative
over
basis.
21,000 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, it does surpass the minimum, whatever the current zoning is, you're correct, but in comparison to other yards, it's a little bit smaller. So the only point I was trying to make is if it was, say, a quote average size yard for the neighborhood, we probably wouldn't even be, in front of you guys for a variance. That's it.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Rosselli, I'm looking at the application drawing.
Yes.
Which I think, I just want to look and make sure that you are shown. Yes, you've done it. I'm looking at drawing number 1. And I'm seeing to the rear of the pool, there's an area marked off in which appears the words new landscaping, but there are no details. What does that mean?
We surrounded our yard when we put in the fence. We surrounded our yard also for privacy and aesthetics with trees. How big are they now?
The green giants. They're like
The green giants, yeah,
8
around the
feet-
perimeter of the
8
property.
feet around the property, so it wouldn't bother any of our neighbors and help with kind of sound protection and all that stuff.
I have a couple of questions. And looking at the plan, the paving, there's existing paving that is on 2 edges of the pool, right? So you're proposing that it goes around all 4 sides, but in addition to that, you're also expanding the patio, right? Why does it have why can't it, if the purpose is what you intended for your children not to slip and not to bring dirt into the water, why does it have to get bigger? Why can't it just be the perimeter?
There's just like there's like one section where it sort of sticks out. So we're just smoothing it all because now that we're gonna have the whole thing around, it's just like that area ended up getting really muddy and everything. So it just seemed like it made sense to combine it into like a rectangle.
Yeah, it's just to create a rectangle on one side and then have a small perimeter on the other three sides.
The reason that I asked is when I was at the site, just from the street, I didn't go all the way in the back, but it was, to me, it was visible. I could see the pool cover. So if that patio gets extended over as you're looking on the site to the left, it seems like an accessory use of the patio would become more visible from the street. And I don't see any landscaping proposed. I know you have landscaping all around the sides and the rear, but I don't see anything that would prevent, would kind of help diffuse the view from the street.
There is a fence and there is landscaping. There's actually two pretty big vegetable gardens. Maybe at the time they weren't put back to where they had been, but if you're looking from the street, there's two very large vegetable gardens that would be blocking the view to the patio in the back. If you're looking at the house and you're looking on the left-hand side.
I didn't notice that they had height to block the view.
They will when we plant them, but yeah, they're.
I didn't see something, but that wasn't there. Yeah.
Maybe they hadn't been put in yet, but yeah, they're definitely there on the left-hand side.
So, going back to the sort of the fundamentals of the zoning and why we're here, what is the hardship? I'm trying to figure that out. We have an oversized lot and I can't seem to find the hardship here.
Well, the hardship, as we mentioned, is just more of just a pool safety issue is the main thing.
Well, that's a want. That's a want. That's not a hardship.
Okay, well, I guess that's a subjective question, and that's the answer that we have.
Yeah, I mean, the hardship honestly was a few months of our kids falling, which was the creation, which was the desire for us to actually put this in the first place.
I think I think my concern with that being the hardship is that's a personal hardship to your family. And I don't think that as a zoning board, that's a reason that allows us to grant the variance because it's a personal reason to you and your family. Furthermore, I mean, I personally have a pool myself that has a grass surround and I have kids too. It's never been a safety issue for me, but beyond that, I was under the impression, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're not, permitted to grant variances due to personal hardship.
That's correct.
That's correct.
If I could ask a question, is there no way of designing the surrounding patio area or changing the size? And can't you have something of a patio without and still be within?
Without what?
Isn't it possible to design the patio, the surrounding pool patio, and still, to still be within the variance amounts within the coverage?
Within the zone requirement.
Yes.
Well, there'd have to be a compensation somewhere else. And I'd have to look at that, talk with the owners, see if they're willing to compensate somewhere else to get the coverage underneath so that we don't need a variance.
Because I think obviously the safety issue is an issue and that's understandable, but at the same time, it's also somewhat presenting the board with a fait accompli, which doesn't put the board in a great situation.
I mean, we've looked at kind of different ways, and Ms. Glad, I appreciate that it wasn't an issue for your kids. It was for us. So I mean, that's one of the reasons we decided to come here. But like we've looked at different ways to structure the patio, and it just doesn't seem like we can get coverage around the pool, given that we only have like a certain amount of square footage left. So I mean, we've tried to do everything else we possibly could to make it happen. We put trees around the entire house. We're trying to make it so that it's not causing any issues for any of our neighbors or anything like that. And this sort of seems like the only option that we had at this point.
And I totally, hear you. So, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, what I'm trying to say. And again, either Gail or Joe, please correct me if I'm off base here, but as a zoning board, we're not allowed to consider a personal hardship as a reason for granting a variance. So to say that it presents like a dirt issue in your pool or a safety issue to your kids because they're running around and slipping, that's not considered a hardship that gives us, a legitimate reason to grant a variance. That's all I'm trying to say.
I guess, and I don't understand what kind of hardship would give us any option to get the extra couple hundred square feet for, like, I guess I don't understand what hardship you would need for this.
Say you had an undersized lot for the zone.
Right.
That could be a hardship. The placement of the home on the lot, that could be a hardship. But you don't suffer from those.
Smaller than all of our surrounding neighbors.
But that's not.
Right, but you meet the but you're oversized in terms of what the zoning requires for the zone in which your house is located. In other words, the minimum lot size for your zone is 20,000 square feet. And the lot has to be a minimum of 100 feet wide and 150 feet deep. The lot area of your property is more than 20,000 square feet. And your lot also, I think,
It's 100 by 218.
Conforming lot dimensions. It's 100 by 200 and something. So it exceeds the required lot depth. And so hardship has to be related to some feature related to the land or the topography, its size, its shape. Is it an irregular shape? Those kind of features. But as Ms. Glatt said, the hardship can't be one that's personal to you as the owner of the property.
I guess we're defining personal in strictly legal terms and not personal in terms of, I don't know what the right word is. I don't know if compassion's the right word, but for the safety of these kids, I guess we're talking 100% legal terms. Seems that's the direction this conversation is going. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the direction that the statute specifically requires.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there anywhere where you could reduce the patio to get it down to a manageable point where board members can vote for it? Can you take away somewhere to get it more into conformance with the ordinance?
Well, we'd have to just conform to the audience period. And I have to talk to the owners about that offline about, if they're willing to make a compensation somewhere else on the property that, I'm not seeing right now. But from what I'm hearing is that legally we can't be granted a variance if I'm understanding correctly. So we'd have to just eliminate the variance altogether. If that's, in other words, are you asking to reduce the amount of the variance, or are you asking?
If you could eliminate it by reducing something somewhere else.
To Mary's point, I mean, you're over, on the total lot coverage, you're over by 561 square feet. And on your rear yard accessory coverage, you're over by 398 square feet.
Right.
And if I'm looking at your when I'm looking at the detail you provided here, there's square footage, there's patio, walkway, there's I won't go, I'm not going to make the suggestion necessarily, but, is there a way of finding square footage to be reduced whereby there would be no variance whatsoever?
Unfortunately, most of it is our really long driveway, and the patio is enclosed. It's like up 2 stairs and enclosed in a big stucco surrounding, so there's really no way to reduce, unfortunately, the
Yeah,
size of the patio.
The previous
There's
owner,
also,
not so much a patio, but a retaining wall and everything, so there's not.
there are also 2 existing patios on this property.
Yeah, that's the patio we're speaking about. That's exactly right.
That's like elevated with a retaining wall and everything that was put in before we were here. There's one patio in the back.
And there's a stone fireplace attached to it. It would be almost impossible to reduce the size of that, unfortunately.
I think what I'm hearing is that it would be a good idea for you guys to take an adjournment of this matter to see if you can trim back the patio that you are requesting, or maybe the existing patios on the property. And also, I'm going to throw my 2 cents in here. I would not vote for this anyway, because I'm seeing on 2 sides of the patio, the proposed new patio, on the exterior of the patio, the words "new landscaping." And I would want to know what that landscaping was and how extensive it was. But I am hearing that it would be very hard for you to get an affirmative vote tonight. So I'm suggesting that, and you are certainly free to talk on the phone if you'd like for a few minutes to Mr. Rosselli, and come back after the next hearing that we have, the next case we have, to let us know if you would like to take an adjournment.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, an adjournment to come back, you mean tonight, later on?
No, I'm not talking about coming back tonight. I mean, sure, if you made the decision that you just didn't want any patio at all around this new pool, and you did the math and you were within the confines of the ordinance, then you could come back later and just withdraw the case. But if you still want to proceed with a case to seek some variance from the ordinance, you might want to consider a reduction of the size of the proposed pool, I'm sorry, of the proposed patios around the pool, and maybe even cutting back on the existing patios on the property. But look, this is up to you. And if you guys want to just hold this case, or want us to hold the case, talk on the phone with each other, that's fine. We have at least one more case on the agenda for tonight. We're going to be here a while.
Right, I will, but let me ask you this. So basically, in a nutshell, what you're saying here is that even if we reduce the amount of the variance, technically you can't approve any variance. Is that more or less correct? So if, say, we cut the amount of the overage in half, it would still not meet the legal threshold for it not being a personal issue. Is that correct?
What the board is telling you is that the statutory criteria for them to grant relief requires a hardship that's related to the land and the structures on the land, not personal.
Right. Okay.
So whether you can secure 5 affirmative votes in order to obtain a variance or the variances that you're requesting is questionable. You hear a number of the board members that are concerned because they're not hearing that proof that they need in order to grant the variances, particularly because this property is an oversized lot.
Yeah, okay. So.
Well, you need to talk among yourselves as to whether you want to withdraw the matter and figure out a way to get within the ordinance requirement, or whether you want to carry the case and hope that you can get significant, a majority vote of the board.
Well, it doesn't make sense to carry the case if we just,
I think we have essentially 374 feet in like of conforming space that we can use. And if we can use that to cover the space, is that kind of an acceptable solution at this point instead of the
Well, if you don't need a variance, then you don't
Right.
need a variance.
It's not, yeah. Okay, so if we just use the 374 and then we basically, this is not gonna go anywhere and then we don't do the extra 150 square feet or whatever, and we just have to figure out a way to make it work.
Right, and you
I
could.
haven't done the
You
math.
could easily do that and
but
withdraw your, here's what I want you to understand. If you do that, if you withdraw this application and then figure out how you use your remaining rear yard accessory coverage and lot area to get some kind of patio that conforms to the zone requirements so that you could get a zoning permit and a building permit, then you would be in good shape. If you don't withdraw and you decide you want to, come back another time, you have the freedom to do that. But
But you guys have made it pretty clear that that's pretty much a non-starter, right? Like basically, we don't want to waste 12 people's time if everyone is basically saying they weren't going to vote for this no matter what. If like basically like we'll withdraw, we'll use the 374 square feet that we have left in our yard, figure out a way, and if I don't know if it's even possible to make it so that our kids can run around and not fall. But if that's the case, I don't like, is there any reason for us to not do that now? Because it doesn't seem like a personal issue is gonna.
Let me say this to you, Mr. If I can call you Spiro. Let me say this to you. You're not going to get a legal opinion from this board on what you want to do. That's your decision.
Okay,
You
well,
want to carry the case, you can always withdraw the case by just calling or going down to City Hall and talking to Eileen David and telling her we want to withdraw the case. You don't have to do it tonight.
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. That sounds great. We'll
Sounds
think about
good.
it. Thank you.
okay.
So why don't we carry it, Eileen, to what date?
Well, we don't want to schedule anything for December, correct? Because we have NJ Energy coming.
Right, we have NJ Energy. They'll be here all night.
It probably wouldn't be until the first meeting of February.
Which is what date?
Not me. We just did that. didn't we?
Oh, we just did that. I don't know where I
It's
put
here
my.
somewhere. February 1st.
All right, I'm going to make a public announcement now that this matter is being carried on the board's agenda to February 3, 2000.
February 1st.
February 1st.
February 1st. Let me say it
Yes.
again. This matter is being carried to February 1st, that's February 1, 2021, without any further notice being required to be made by the applicants, either by mailing or in the newspapers or any further notice. Now, I will add to the applicants, if you decide that you don't want to proceed with this case, just call Eileen David at City Hall and let her know. Thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you.
Okay.
We need an extension though, Gail. We need an extension.
We need you to verbally consent to an extension of time for a decision through February 2nd, because the law requires the board to make a decision within 60 days right now due to COVID-19. and your time is going to be expiring. So if you would just verbally consent to an extension of time through February 2nd, even though you may well end up withdrawing the application, we just want to make sure we have that on the record.
Okay, yes, you have our consent.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next and last case.
Hey, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
now.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Roselli. The last case for the evening is Donald and Kathleen Fiore at 124 Cypress Street.
Okay, 1 second. Why is, oh, there it is. Hold on. I'm gonna get him out of here. Okay. Fiore. Here we go.
Okay. Who's going to be testifying tonight?
Both of us, Donald and Kathleen Fiore.
Okay, just both of you raise your right hand. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give in tonight's Zoom hearing to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
If you would both just state your names for the record, please.
Kathleen Fiore?
Is that with a K? Kathleen?
Yes.
And Donald Fiore, Fiore.
Thank you. Okay.
Fiore, proceed.
Okay. This is for calendar number 3771-20. We are Donald and Kathleen Fiore, the owners of 124 Cypress Street, Lot 18, Block 205. We've been residents here for the past 23 years, and I've been working in town for the past 27 years. This is just an opportunity for us to do some improvements, some additions, alterations, a little updating, a little upkeep for our house, which was built in 1951 as a spec house in the Wyoming section. The house is located in the Wyoming Historic District, and we did receive approvals last Thursday for this same project. We have provided notice to all of the property owners on the property list and have provided a certification of that. And we have also advertised in the item and provided that affidavit. For our presentation, the exhibits we would have, and I'll be sharing, I have the drawings for the site plan, the architectural plans, the elevations. What I honestly did not remember for the photograph of neighboring properties, if that was included in your application or not that you received.
No photographs.
No, okay. So that will be one new exhibit. And then we have the annotated tax map that was included. And I do have an excerpt from the zoning calculations form just for reference for the variances. So located in an R5 zone, R5 residential. As I said, we've received our approvals from the historic board. I'm not sure if you have been notified of that or not. I believe the attorney was supposed to have made notice.
He,
I can tell you that we, Eileen and I received an email from the township attorney advising that both of us that he understands this matter is on the agenda for this evening's meeting. And the purpose of his email was to let the board know that the matter was approved by the Historic Preservation Commission on Thursday evening, December 3rd, and it'll be memorialized at the next meeting. So just to make the board aware of that.
Okay, thank you. If I can share the screen, the first one just for summary for the variances. Okay, are you, I just want to confirm if you are seeing the zoning
No.
chart?
Nope, we're not seeing.
We're not.
Okay.
There you go.
That's- yeah, there we
Now
go.
we are.
Okay, With our application, we have 4 variances that we're seeking. All of them are related to the lot width and essentially side yard conditions. First is additional side yard setback greater than 18 feet in height. Our existing house is a ranch house on the side of the South Mountain Reservation. However, when you calculate the grade plane, it where the additional height requires a side yard setback of 13.5 feet. The existing left side setback is 8.6 feet. The existing right side is 8.18 feet. In our application, we are extending to the rear of the house along the right side, and the extension would continue the 8.18 foot setback along the right-hand side. Okay. For the combined side yard, the existing requirement being 35% would require a 21-foot combined side yard. Our existing left and right side yards combined at 28% or 16.8 feet, difference being 4.2 feet or 7% for the combined side yard. For the minimum accessory structure side setback, which will be to a proposed deck in the rear. Again, the existing side yards are 8.18 and 8.68. On the right, we are proposing, 8.68 on the right-hand side. However, the accessory setback requirement is 12 feet, giving us a request for 3.32 feet of relief for that deck. And then finally, the fourth one down at the bottom here, the accessory use mechanical setback is 3 times the 12-foot accessory use setback, or 36 feet. Our lot is 60 feet wide. If I were doing 36 feet from each side, it leaves us literally with no room for a condensing unit for the air conditioner, which is what this is for. And the project that we are proposing is to the rear of the house, off of an existing family room, and has a rear entry driveway that was designed with the original house, making the rear of the house somewhat unavailable for this one condensing unit.
Could you just, Don, could you just go back? You're saying accessory use mechanical setback. You referring to an AC unit?
Yes.
Okay, no, accessory use mechanicals, there's like pool equipment. AC unit has to be 2 times the side yard setback from the unit to your neighbor's dwelling.
Then we're fine. I have approximately 31 feet.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
You only need, what are you in the R5?
R5, yes.
You need 24.
Okay, then
Yeah, I didn't think I saw a pool on here. That's why you kind of caught me.
So Eileen, they do not need the accessory mechanical setback of 36 feet?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, the current location then with the 24 feet would conform 24 feet to the neighboring house.
Yeah.
Current location is 30 feet and it conforms to the 24.
Correct.
Let me just see. I didn't see.
So that variance is not required.
Where is the AC unit proposed? If you could just, 'cause I'm,
Let me see if I can get.
because do I have a?
Let's see. Okay. This is simply the drawings that you have already received, but the solid hatched gray area along this left wall here, that is the area that we are proposing an expansion on the second floor. Our existing condensing unit is this box, is under that box right there.
Okay.
The proposed second condensing unit would be located right here. So on our site plan off the survey, we have a condensing unit located right in this corner, and we're we would propose one right next to it.
Alrighty.
Okay. Okay. Are there any questions or? Okay. This is drawing A1, excuse me. A1.1 in the application, the architectural plans. Plan to the left is just the existing floor plan. The majority of what we would be proposing to have to demolish in the course of construction is dotted. And then the proposed plan is obviously immediately to the right of this. The area that I'd like to start with, this rectangle right here toward the rear of the house, that is the existing family room we have right now. It is approximately 15 feet square. And this was the result of a project that was done, we believe, back in 1958, and it appears to have been the enclosure of a porch and a deck. As far as I can tell, there was some combination of two structures that were enclosed to make this room. So back in that day, at that time, construction was not exactly what it should have been. Never has been a great structure. This is our opportunity to try and improve it. Off the right-hand side of that family room, this is right now what we have is a little mud entry. That was actually their old stoop that was enclosed. It actually exists underneath the structure at the moment. Again, this is going back to 1958 when that was done. Finally, this L-shaped section here, and I put a table on it just for reference, that is the configuration of the existing deck that we have right now. That is what we are basing a lot of our construction off of. And for reference, this L-shaped path over here, that's the existing brick paver walkway behind the house now. What we're proposing, what I've done is hatched in 3 different ways the areas of expansion. The solid hatched areas to the left and to the upper left corner of the family room, those are areas of cantilevered construction that we're proposing that are over existing impervious construction below, meaning the existing driveway, or there's a concrete stoop to get into a storage space below this project. There is a diagonal hatch to the right side. That is essentially area of the existing deck that we are proposing to enclose with this project. So the deck exists in those areas, and those are the areas that we are looking to take back in terms of living space. And finally, there's a crosshatch area to the rear half of the proposed deck. That is actually the one expansion area that we are proposing over existing lawn area for the most part for the deck to the rear of the house. So those are the 3 major construction elements that we have for the project. So now, the cantilevers, they're both anticipated for our first floor living space. However, as a ranch on the side of South Mountain, these are over existing foundations that are going to remain. So it's just cantilevering out the proposed additional floor space. The family room, again, what it's doing is it's getting us 2 feet in each direction and essentially giving us the ability to open up this project a little more appropriately between the family room and the kitchen to the right. On the existing plan in the upper right-hand corner, this is the existing eat-in kitchen, approximately 10 feet by 10 foot square. Architecturally, just a lousy layout, but it's a 1950s kitchen. It is what it was. What we are proposing to do is essentially extend it straight back over what was the original deck, approximately 14.5 feet. Treat this as more of a galley kitchen space Right now, instead of this being the eat-in space as well, the cooking gets prepared or gets relocated along this wall. So we have a little bit of a more functional and appropriate kitchen. And then the eat-in function slides back to an island and a keeping space with exits out to the deck to the rear. The proposed addition extends from this garden there's a garden window that would be in the existing wall of the house in the corner. The addition starts from this point and extends back to the rear of the proposed addition. If there are any questions, I can do it per sheet, or I have the 3 sheets to present. I'll go on to the elevations for the project. This is sheet A 2.1 in the packet. The first drawing, the upper left, right side elevation, drawing 1. For your reference point, there is a heavy dotted line superimposed over the proposed project. That is actually the profile of the existing house to the rear right now. What you're seeing is this is the rear wall of the family room. This space here represents the 2-foot cantilevered addition that we are proposing. For reference, for the height of this project, the distance from the existing ridge to the proposed ridge is approximately 40 inches taller. For reference, and again, well below the existing ridge line of the existing house. On this drawing, to the left-hand side, essentially the unpochade area, that is just the existing house to remain, with the exception of a new garden window, which would be installed over the proposed sink layout within the kitchen. After that, to the right of that garden window, that would be the proposed addition. And the only fenestration on that portion of the wall would be a series of clear story windows high on the wall for interior light, but that's it. So there is not really anything with respect to view out of that side of the house. In terms of the height of the project, for those of you especially who visited the site, this is the height of the existing gutter at the rear of the house right now off of the original ranch. That would be continued as the same gutter line along the rear portion of this addition. This side in particular, it's the similar condition for both the left and right sides, but on this side, this gutter height, the fascia height, being consistent with what was there, is being held at approximately 12.5 feet above grade. The big grade pitches a little bit, but that's the approximate height for reference. The roof is a shed roof that increases as it moves away from the property line, but it's increasing at a rate of 3 on 12. So it's a very shallow slope roof with the intent of minimizing any massing that is occurring on that side of this project. To the rear of the addition, you can see with this vertical slat here, that's the proposed deck. The deck relative to the existing deck is being dropped down. So again, it's even lower within the massing of this project to the rear. But the extension to the rear is approximately 7.5 feet out. And that would bring it basically in line with the existing deck on the neighboring property. On the rear elevation, drawing 2, one very quick correction that I noticed on this drawing. The steeper slopes are listed at 10 on 12. They're actually 8 on 12. They were made to 8 on 12 to bring that ridge height down to reduce the massing. I just never went back and corrected the slope indicators on the drawing itself. So that is an 8 on 12 roof pitch for the proposed gable roof. In the design of this, and something that was important with the historic committee, this vertical line here and this vertical line here in terms of the definition for this gable, those are the original lines of the current family room that are being extended out. So essentially, we're continuing that essential definition of what this house has been historically in terms of telling the story about the house. So it's something where we're trying to maintain some of the characters and definitions from that original house. What you are seeing on the right side of the gable is a 2-foot section to the right that is our proposed cantilever addition over the driveway and the condensing unit. And above on the roof, we're proposing 2 small dormers for a little bit of clear story light up inside the room. One of the things we're trying to achieve with this room is to get a little bit of vertical height within the room. The existing family room right now, ceiling is 7 feet tall. And if you picture, it's just the old enclosed porch. To the left side of the gable, you're seeing a longer, again, shallow sloped roof. This would be the main roof over the kitchen addition. Below that, basically we have a simple pair of doors with a small coverage stoop coming in from the rear entrance, which would predominantly be our main or most active use for the house, with cars parked in the driveway to the rear of the house. On the left-hand side or lower left elevation, again, the unhatched area, you're seeing the existing house. To the rear of that, you're seeing the hatched area, which would be this first lower section would be the cantilevered portion of wall. There would be a small section of low sloped shed roof above that to keep that massing down as much as possible to the neighbor downhill from us. And the 2 small dormers up above, again, putting in the clear story lighting, but we went with the shed roofs, basically something to keep that vertical massing down as much as possible on this being the downhill side of the house. And again, to the rear, what you're seeing is the proposed deck, and then the comparison relative to the existing deck for reference point. And yes, this is actually showing you in elevation where the condensing units would be proposed. Okay. For site plan, if I could skip, I'll use the landscaping plan for most of the site plan testimony, only because most of the reference points are there. If there are any questions, I have the grading plan. To the left of that is the series of calculations I used for grade plane and building height, and then the original survey to the far left. Below, we have the planting list and then proposed retention, storm retention system in the lower left. But let me reference the landscape plan. Okay. In this plan, what's important to note, this floor plan is exactly the same as the original house to our right, where our driveway is between the property line and our left side of the house. Their driveway is from the shared property line to the right side of their house, and then it's literally the exact same plan. The project that we are proposing, essentially filling in this corner, is something that had been done to that house quite a few years ago. And most recently, they then did an addition off the side of it. They actually had a much wider lot and were able to expand to the right-hand side. But it's it's the exact same house in the exact same alignment. So with that, the reason I'm mentioning it is our proposed project here is continuing our existing right side elevation or right side wall. It's facing their existing turnaround and garage or their driveway and garage area, turnaround area. And with the slope of the topography, our first floor is at their garage elevation, and then their living space is essentially a story above that. What we've proposed in this project was an extensive package of landscape screening Along the right side, what we were proposing were a wall of skip laurel and staggering it to soften up the appearance for them as much as possible. Giving us a screening, we can set this at whatever height we need it to be at and maintain it. In addition, historically, when we bought this house, there were probably 7 major trees among the 3 properties with an open backyard, which is a very park-like situation. Unfortunately, we had a little problem with some tree management for the uphillmost tree. It came down a few years back and basically took down or damaged the rest of the trees across the backyards of their property, our property, and our downhill neighbor's property. So we lost 7 trees, 4 of which were 28 inches or greater in diameter. So it was substantial. Now it's a wide open area. What we've proposed are a few trees in the back, just to give a little bit of definition, bring in a little bit more of that treescape, that canopy. The trees we've proposed are called City Sprite Zelkova. And for lack of a better, their maximum height is about 24 feet tall. For lack of better description, it's a small urban tree. It's designed to be in tight spaces and has a maximum height again of 24 feet. We did present this to Tom Doty, who did accept it without reservation. We did consult him in response to a neighbor's request about the trees. In the back of the deck, we do propose some landscaping beds, but it's just combinations of hydrangeas and ground cover. What we are proposing, though, are these 2 tanks here. We're proposing an underground storage or stormwater control system. One of the problems on this side of the mountain, and in particular with the houses as they've developed, first on the side of the mountain, ton of groundwater coming through. We've always had trouble controlling it. And come the spring, the yards are absolutely useless until it dries. In addition, as projects have been done within the neighborhood, the runoff from these houses is effectively collecting in the backyards of the houses and eroding, ultimately, our downhill neighbor, eroding their yard and the yard below them dramatically, but it's the same effect in our yard. What we're proposing is something to effectively start trying to intercept and control some of that water. The houses were built, and we really have never been able to document where some of the underground leaders are piped to. Some of them are clogged, some of them have just been abandoned. So we're going to be taking all impervious from our project and controlling that within the storm system, but we're also picking up the runoff from the neighbor's house, from their roof and driveway, which runs across our property. So we'll be trying to pick that up and collect it. By zoning ordinance, we typically, our impervious increase does not trigger that storm retention system requirement, but we are proposing it as an element of the project to try and control what's coming down, what we're generating, and helping out neighbors down the hill from our property. Okay. If there are questions on the plans, I would be happy to answer them, or if not, I'd be going back to the zoning chart and just clarifying what we're doing there. So I think I'll go back here. Okay. All right, for the additional side yard setback, the existing gable end of the house of our house, the existing gable, is approximately 20 feet high relative to the actual grade. The grade plane for the calculations on the uphill side of our house, which is the one that is of most concern, is actually 2 feet below the existing grade. So by calculation, it affects us. In reality, It's actually less than what it appears in the numbers. For our proposed project, the facial line at the side yard setback is 12.5 feet. Though the side yard setback, regardless of height, would have been a minimum of 12 feet, that would reduce the side yard, might change it in terms of the zoning requested, but it does not make it go away. This is something that is a direct result of the width of the property, which is typical within this neighborhood and with the Wyoming development. For the combined side yard, let's see here. Okay. Again, we're working with the two existing side yards. There is nothing that we can do with that. That is a result of the existing development that was constructed in 51. It's very common, very typical within the neighborhood. I do have some photographs of a variety of houses just within our street. But this is, again, a direct result of the narrowness of the lot with respect to the zoning ordinance. For the accessory use side yard setback, right now the deck was built in line with our existing house. We are proposing for the proposed deck to move it an additional 6 inches off the property line. But in developing and frankly having a deck, a patio, or anything of that nature behind the house, we're working with the narrow lot and a rear entrance garage and driveway that basically handcuffs us from the left-hand side. That was the way the house was designed. That's the way the property was developed. And it's exactly the same as the property immediately adjacent to us and is actually a common house within the Wyoming neighborhood. Each of those three, and we determined we don't have to worry about the accessory use mechanical. Each of these issues is directly related to the width of the property, and it's the property as it was developed. But it's basically, it becomes exceptionally narrow with respect to the current zoning ordinances requiring a 75-foot lot width. Okay. Very quickly, this is just in terms of seeing the property. I believe 2 of the members have been out. I'm not sure about the rest. This is looking at the right side of our right property line from the rear of the property, neighboring house and garage. The deck here, what we're looking to do is square off from this wall back to this side wall. That would be the kitchen addition. The deck line here would slide 6 inches to the right and then slide back to the rear of the property, 7.5 feet. View from the front of the property line. So with the trees, you really do not see it dead on. The project can be seen if you slide to the right, maybe to the right side of their driveway. You can see the right portion of the wall. Other than that, the project can be partially seen from Cedar, the street behind us, when you get to certain views, but you never actually can see a full view of what the project is. Just a view straight onto the back. This is just giving you a reference point. I believe you can see the original condensing unit there to the right. We're proposing a cantilever over 2 feet, fill in the back, and effectively from this elevation, the roof's pitch increases, and we're putting on a stone chimney basically to the rear in the center of the gable. And again, just giving you a little bit more detail so you can see what this is. Okay, same thing, opposite property line for reference. This is as you're going down the hill. The one point here, if you see if you notice, there is no basically from this perspective, you're not seeing anything that is involved in this project as you're looking down the property line. So there is a portion of the existing garage, driveway, and car turnaround adjacent to the neighboring property, buffering their house from anything that we are proposing. Okay. I'll just show you very quickly. These are a series of shots separations between the varying houses, up and down the street, across the street from us, and coming back up down below, just illustrating basically typical separation of the houses. The one point being, I believe all but possibly one of these is a two-story house with essentially the exact same type of setback condition for side yard separation. Two-story house on a 50-foot lot here. If you actually look in the back, they actually have a bay projection out of one of the rooms, which actually comes even closer to the property line. Again, here you're just looking at a designated historic site and its driveway right to retaining wall. Opposite side of that same designated property, this lot's a little bit wider, so you do pick up some lawn on the historic side or the left side here. Right side is right back to retaining wall and single driveway. Opposite side, it's the exact same condition, very narrow side yard setback. Again, for reference, we're talking 12 feet in the zone. This one happens to have a wider lot, or a little bit wider lot, and you have the driveway plus some grass. That's the nature of this, but the house to the right of it is purely driveway. And then going right on down the street, same thing, two narrow side yards, very typical condition. And as I'm working back up, this is on our side, and other than it's looking down a property line, two houses down from us, it's driveway. The house to the left here from this curb line was effectively a double lot that was combined and developed as a tear down and a new larger home. And then this is neighboring the house below us, 122 Cypress, to the next house below them. Again, it's just a very narrow side yard condition, and it's something that's very typical for the neighborhood. And then if I can give you the one final document that I think I'd like to use just as an exhibit. This was in the packet.
Before you do that,
yes,
I counted 13 photographs, and we'll mark those as a group A1.
Okay.
And you'll need to email those to Eileen so she can share them with me.
She'll get them tonight. All right. Okay.
And this will be A2.
Okay. Now this is in the packet.
Okay, I don't think I saw that in my packet. I'll have to look.
It should
The photographs and this exhibit were in my packet.
yeah, the photograph.
They were in mine too.
Okay, well, my problem is that I did not get a package in time for tonight's meeting. So
It should have been in with the application, Gail. You downloaded them?
I downloaded them from the website. I'm just trying to see if I have that document.
Yeah, they were at the end of the application.
Okay, then I guess I must have it. We don't have to mark it.
But if
And
not,
I can mark it as A2 if that.
yeah, just in case, that way.
Yeah. And I'll document that and send that to Eileen as well.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. This is just a small study. It gave me something to do when I'm not sleeping. What this is the tax map for our property, which is the green area, with a couple of different things, both zoning and historically. Historically, this dotted red line, that was to illustrate the extent of the Wyoming district relative to some designated properties for our presentation on Thursday. On the zoning aspect, this heavy black line to the left side, basically to the left, you have R4 along Sagamore Road. On the right-hand side, there's a heavy line and basically have R6 down below Myrtle Ave. Everything in between is R5. And I just, for what I do, I've always been a little curious, and this gave me my reason to look at this. In this illustration, just in the R5 zone, just on this tax map, there are 161 lots in total. And this does not, that excludes the Wyoming School District. Of that, I was just looking for a little bit of an understanding for the neighborhood. You have these rust-colored properties. There are 9, 5.5% of the lots. Basically, these are non-conforming lots. They do conform with the width requirement, but otherwise, the lots themselves are simply non-conforming by size, width, depth. You have these blue-green lots. There are 128 of them, or nearly 80%. These lots do not meet the width, size, or depth of the zoning ordinance as it's currently written. Then we have these white unshaded lots. There are 24 of them. That's approximately 15% of the lots in just this little analysis here. Those lot sizes actually conform to the width, depth, and size. So this is in support of the statement as far as a hardship on the narrowness of the property. Our property with respect to narrowness is 60 feet wide. 59% of the studied area is narrower than that. And of the non-conforming lots, 69% of them are narrower than our 60-foot, let alone meeting the zoning ordinance. So there is an issue there that I've always seen with respect to the zoning ordinance. Within the master plan, there's a statement in terms of the R5 residential district that I believe it reads, and if I'm quoting it probably, the use includes those areas with a minimum lot size of 14,500 square feet. All right, that matches the ordinance, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, or I'll say 8 blocks of the R5, and less than 15% of them actually meet that statement. Within the historic went into the basis and the establishment of the Wyoming district as effectively 50-foot lots in support of the train station that served this area at the time. None of that is reflected by the zoning ordinance as it's written today. However, it is the neighborhood. With respect to the zoning ordinance, we have a narrowness issue, but it actually applies to, what did I say, 80% of the lots. So in any event, for the variances, as I said, this is, in our opinion, the direct result of the narrowness of the lot with respect to the zoning ordinance. This is the property as it was developed originally. This is the property that included the setbacks as they were laid out, includes the rear entry driveways as the house was originally designed. There's nothing we can do with any of those aspects. We cannot move the house. We do not have adjacent properties to purchase. The neighborhood is developed and fully established. None of the variances that we're proposing effectively exacerbate a condition. We are not moving closer to the property lines. We have not exceeded the impervious coverage or building coverage for this property. We've gone to great lengths to minimize the massing within the neighborhood, specifically to our neighbors. And to the neighbors that would be most affected, we believe we proposed a pretty extensive landscaping package to soften and buffer that. It's third hand, through me, but the neighbors have actually asked that we landscape it less. I've never had that requested before, but that's what was asked of us. In any event, we're proposing what we have proposed. The property is, or the project is minimally visible from the street, either from the front or the rear. It has minimal impact, if at all, on any of the neighboring properties. We find little or no detrimental impact to the neighborhood, to the zone. And we believe it helps enhance the neighborhood, the property values in this area. So with that, if there are questions, we open it up for questions, but we're asking for comment and approval.
Can we take this down now?
Yes. That,
Right.
okay.
First, I'm going to ask if there's any questions from any board members. Eileen, is there anyone in the audience who has any questions?
There is no one in the audience.
The audience, yeah.
No one in the audience, all right. Board members, since there are no questions or statements, is there anyone in the audience at all?
No.
No, okay. So no one in the audience has any comments either. I'm going to ask board members for their comments, if any.
You know, Joe, I think Don did a great job explaining what the hardship is here. And I think the hardship is really what all the variances are about. The hardship is the width of the lot.
It's the width of the lot.
Yep.
Definitely. And you took the words out of my mouth. I think that when you look at the chart for the 5 zone, and you see that this lot is 60 feet wide and 75 feet is the minimum required, kind of tells you all you need to know. Eileen, I just want to be absolutely certain I heard this correctly. Did I hear that there is no variance required for the, let me get it in front of me.
Accessory mechanical setback.
There's no
Yeah, the mechanical setback. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so we have 3 variances left. Accessory side yard, and then the side, another side yard, C variance, and the combined side yard. Is there anyone on the board who has any further comments on this matter? If not, is there anyone on the board, Mary?
I just think it was a well thought out project, and the width of the lot, obviously, as you said, is the impediment. And I think it's going to add a lot to the neighborhood.
You know, sometimes and I've served on the commission, sometimes I am dubious about their decisions, but this time I agree with what they've decided. So is there a motion in this case?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Joy Siegel. Second?
Second.
Second by Craig.
Mary McNett,
Yes.
Craig Plattner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Good luck on the project, Don.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have
Thank
a
you
good
so
night.
much.
Okay, I think we have exhausted our agenda for tonight and exhausted ourselves as well.
It's in the process.
Okay, we'll see you back in 2 weeks for the last meeting of the year. How about that?
How about that?
Yeah, how about that? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Take care, again.
Cross for you, Eileen. Fingers crossed.
I know, I can't do this anymore. I'm going crazy,
Yeah.
but I'm getting a lot of minutes done, so,
Good, good.
because I,
Maybe we didn't get them adopted tonight.
they could have been, but whatever.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye now.